This young man is named Ronin, a talented warrior, and the last survivor after a brutal battle with the giants that threatened the world's very existence. Even though they won, his joy was mixed with bitterness, since the entire Imperial army had perished, and his brilliant commander Grand Marshal Addison was left nearly disabled and missing an arm. Just as he and Grand Marshal Addison thought they'd successfully protected the world, a stronger force of giants suddenly appeared, pushing humanity into utter despair. In his final moments, Addison used the power of time slip to send Ronin back to the past, giving him a chance to change fate and become the strongest swordsman in Imperial history. Protect the world. With his future experiences, Ronin is determined to alter destiny, safeguard the world, and prepare for the final battle against the giants. Ed just gave a quick summary. Let's dive right into the main content. On a gloomy day, rain poured down like it was about to swallow the fiery red sky, giving off a creepy vibe. The ground was eerily quiet, littered with bodies, blood flowing everywhere and mixing with the rain, making the scene even more terrifying. Ronin stood among the corpses. He'd just been through an intense battle, looking exhausted and drained. This place was almost devoid of survivors except for Ronin. He leaned his head on his sword, sweat pouring down his face, and his clothes were all torn up. The others had swords through their chests, some shot in the back, and almost all of them were mangled with blood gushing from their bodies. Ronin lifted his head and scanned around, staying cautious of everything. After the battle, blood was streaming from his eyes and mouth, but before him lay an entire army that had fallen, a scene full of devastation. Only their flag still stood tall. He said, "They sure dropped like flies." Ronin was nearly out of energy, sweat dripping down his face, his eyes fixed on one spot, clearly worn out. He couldn't hold back and muttered, "Damn it," as a steady sound echoed. Ahayut was way too careless. With his sharp instincts, Ronin sensed something off and quickly spotted it, looking down. There was a massive belly, so huge that the rain formed a puddle around it. The giant let out a terrifying voice. Who knew there was a human this strong? Ronin glared at him, eyes bulging, teeth gritted. "You're still alive." Ronin was standing on the belly of the giant Ahayut. He looked absolutely horrifying with his pale white eyes, 4 horns on his head, his body covered in sword wounds, arms spread out as if exhausted, and his white wings all battered. Ronin stood on Ahayut's body while he was flattened. Before this battle, he had seemed incredibly powerful and mighty. The giant Ahayut, along with his 3 brothers, had come to the Empire and caused chaos at will. Wherever these giants went, thousands died, fires raged, killing everyone, and bodies piled up. Among the 3, one had 2 horns, another 3, and the last one 4. After appearing in the Empire 20 days ago, they caused havoc at will, and he was the last of the trio. Back in the moment, Ronin suddenly stomped hard on Ahayut's face. The stomp splashed water from his belly everywhere. He planted 1 foot on the giant's nose, facing him directly. Right then, he held the upper hand. He said, "So why aren't you dead yet?" He pressed his foot hard against the giant's face. "Don't worry about threats. It won't be long now. Ahayut will soon be back with his master." The giant's eyes glowed, but he didn't react. He looked at him with contempt. "Not bad, your dead buddies are waiting for you." Despite the insults, Ahayut didn't care, but when he heard Ronin's words, he reacted. "Buddies? Yeah, the 2 who came with you." Remembering their deaths wasn't pleasant. One became a fried giant from a red dragon's fire breath, and the other was permanently sealed by an old man named Lareahone. After saying that, Ronin looked satisfied, his eyes wide, and a smug smile on his face. Even though sweat covered his face and his clothes were ripped, his demeanor was still impressive. "Got it straight, you idiot." But Ahayut didn't want to hear it and shot back, "Don't hide the truth, you strong human." Ronin was clearly surprised by what he said. The rain kept falling, steadily, droplets hitting his thin hair, and his teeth gritted. Ahayut continued, "I know those enemies are buried deep with their kind, and that means strong ones like you are gone." Even though he was a giant lying on the ground with Ronin stepping on him, Ronin seemed more dominant. Hearing Ahayut's words, Ronin scoffed, "I'm still alive and kicking. What are you talking about?" His words were sharp, but Ahayut saw the flaw. The giant's eyes sharpened as he retorted, "Don't count your chickens before they hatch. I know your time is almost up, and that makes me happy." Ronin's foot was pressed against his face, but Ahayut kept going. "If you'd realized your skills earlier and trained hard, you'd have been a big obstacle to our plans." It hit a nerve, so Ronin gritted his teeth in anger, bowing his head. "From the start, you..." His face lost its smile, his mouth turned down, and his eyes turned cold, staring downward. No longer hiding it, he said, "Everything about me, Yeah, I know my life's a mess, so just shut up and die. Ahayat didn't change expression. You're a great human, you have the right to be proud. Ronan picked up his sword, ignoring him, but Ahayat went on. Ronan's strength was at its limit, his heavy breaths coming nonstop. Ahayat said, "In the end, your world will be swallowed by the stars and vanish." Not letting him finish, Ronan struck, slamming Ahayat's head into the ground. He jumped onto the giant's neck and delivered a powerful sword strike. That sword blow released a massive light, sending the giant's head flying far away, and the ground shook from the impact. Through the hole in his horn, light from the sky shone through. Such a painful death was probably the last thing Ahayat expected. The head thudded to the ground. After killing the last remaining giant, Ronan turned and walked away, not lingering on the pile of bodies. Ronan's eyes had grown even more emotionless, staring coldly at a spot below. The rain kept falling steadily, mixing with the blood on the ground, making the scene utterly desolate. After a while, he muttered to himself, "What do you want me to do with all this?" Ronan walked on with empty thoughts, stepping into a red puddle, causing the water to swirl. His body was completely worn out and on the verge of collapsing. He struggled to take each step in growing despair, then suddenly looked up as if seeing something unexpected. While still panting heavily, memories flashed back to when he was in the army, with his comrades and all tall and strong, laughing and joking, except Ronan was a bit smaller and seemed quiet and hard to connect with. Even though everyone was friendly, Ronan noticed a buddy next to him. That buddy turned and smiled at Ronan, the one with a long scar over his eye, and split hair, probably the one who helped Ronan fit in more. Then they went to this battlefield together, fighting side by side as comrades in life and death, always sticking together. But in this brutal fight, that buddy died, a sword piercing through his armor and into his stomach, blood spraying everywhere, leaving him in shock, but it was too late. His eyes stopped on a point. "Are you all here?" Ronan stopped where his comrades' bodies were piled up. They all died in agonizing ways, swords through their bodies. His closest buddy was lying right in front of him, no longer breathing. He died with his eyes open, a sight that brought more despair than anything. He cursed loudly, "You dumb fools!" Ronan knelt in pain, both physical and emotional. "Why did you fight so arrogantly until death? Did you think if I was strong, you all were too?" Then he reached out and closed his buddy's eyes. This was probably the last thing Ronan could do for him. "You should have known when to run, you idiots." Ronan stayed kneeling, blaming himself and his comrades. Why, how could the giants counter the Empire's strongest sword aura? Why was only my sword able to fight them? He stared at his buddy, guilt eating away at him, even though he did nothing wrong. He said, "If it wasn't for that, a support soldier like me wouldn't have to be on the front lines, and you all wouldn't have died." Ronan's eyes were full of despair. He slumped down in a pool of blood, having survived a life-or-death battle as the last one standing. Suddenly, in the utter darkness, the one left behind is the one in the most pain. Suddenly, in the utter darkness, a voice appeared. "Is anyone there?" That voice made him suddenly look up, eyes wide in shock. Someone said, "I'm injured and can't move." The sound was somewhat familiar to him. Recognizing the voice, surprise filled his eyes. She kept calling out, "Is anyone there?" Ronan immediately stuck his sword in the ground and went to find the source of the voice. He stood up and shouted, "Finding someone! She's still alive!" Ronan dragged himself forward with difficulty, the pain making him grit his teeth. As if he'd found who he was looking for, his eyes stopped on a spot. He ran to the distance where the girl was badly injured. This person is Addison Akalusia. He was overjoyed to see her, his face breaking into a smile. "So you're still alive," he continued, Commander-in-Chief. Addison Akalusia was wearing tattered clothes. She was leaning against a large rock, her body covered in blood, her face exhausted. Seeing him, Addison nodded in greeting. Ronan gritted his teeth in frustration, not knowing what to do. He slowly approached her and asked what happened to our brilliant leader. But Addison was surprised that he was still alive. She said, "Ronan, aren't you just a private? You're not supposed to be that strong." She remembered something and asked seriously, "More importantly, is A or Oot dead?" Hearing that, Ronan replied, "Yes, I killed him. His body is lying not far from here." Addison sighed in relief. "Is that so?" This surprised Ronan, wondering why she asked. Suddenly, tears streamed down Addison's face. She murmured, "He's dead." Crying, she whispered, "Thanks. Thank you so much, Private Ronan." He quietly watched his commander, not expecting someone as cold as her to cry like this. Ronan gave a thumbs up. "Well, if you're that grateful, could you grant me one request?" Hearing that Addison asked a request, he recounted the handling of the loyal soldiers' bodies. Normally, as per regulations, their bodies would be burned or discarded. But this time, could she order a more respectful handling of their bodies? She looked at him thoughtfully for a moment and said, I'm not sure about that. I'm in worse shape than you right now, so wouldn't it be better if you took care of them yourself? I'm in worse shape than you right now, so wouldn't it be better if you took care of it yourself? As soon as she finished, Ronan coughed hard. Oh man, Commander, how could I dare? Dang it. He held out his blood-covered hand. See, I'm not much better off than you. Ronan looked at the blood from his mouth. I could drop dead any minute now. He said regretfully, normally I just wandered around, never got to do anything meaningful. And now I'm about to kick the bucket of life so unfair. Addison asked, hey, if you somehow survive, what would you want to do? He smiled and replied, oh, plenty for sure. Ronan looked up at the sky. But right now, the only thing on my mind is wondering what it's like to go to the academy. She asked, the academy. She asked. Ronan recalled his battle memories. Yeah, that damn giant said some things that's been bugging me. He continued, anyway, more importantly, Ronan mentioned it's because my sister's last wish was for me to go to the academy. He sighed, but what a shame, I'll probably be reunited with the family in just a few minutes. And Addison tried to ease the situation. When the rain stops, the rescue team will start searching, right? Ronan calmly said, hey, I told you I'm listed as missing, so why keep saying that? Ronan was silent for a moment, then added, such nonsense. Suddenly the rain started to let up and sunlight began to break through. The commander and Ronan were both startled. He looked up. What the rain stopped. Addison was also puzzled. The storm just ended suddenly. At that moment, the ground began to shake, an earthquake hitting. Both of them panicked, not knowing what was happening. Ronan grumbled, what the heck? He suddenly noticed something. An 8-winged monster with blinding light appeared. Ronan shouted, 8 radiance. Not only that, hundreds of monsters started appearing. Ronan panicked. What the hell is this? Where did they crawl out from? Seeing the scene, Addison despaired. Is it possible the 3 giants weren't the end? Her voice trembled. In the end, I still couldn't save the world 3 times. Addison desperately speculated. There's only one last chance, I can't think of anything else. A voice cut in, Commander. Commander, Ronan shouted, snapping her out of it. Ronan shouted, Commander! Snapping her out of it. Hey, he scolded. What's wrong with you? You need to control your emotions. Hurry up and use your telekinesis or whatever to throw me up there, damn it. My sword on the ground can't reach them. She was stunned for a moment. What? He kept scolding, aren't you going to take them down? Addison was shocked. In this situation, you're still thinking of fighting. Ronan looked at her helplessly. What else? Are you just going to sit there and wait to die? He said seriously. But even if I die, I have to take down these savages first. Addison thought, even now he hasn't given up. She realized that's just who he is. If not, how could we have come this far? She thought, if it's him. Faced with his determination, Addison hesitated for a second. She placed her hand on Private Ronan's shoulder. He turned, what now? He acted annoyed. I'm busy, don't jump in. Suddenly, she leaned in and gave him a passionate kiss, leaving him frozen. Ronan thought, what is this? From Addison's mouth, a green gem was transferred to his. Hey, he asked suspiciously, what did you just put in my mouth? She whispered in his ear, something. Ronan heard and was shocked. Huh? Wait, you're... He tried to listen to what she was saying. Ronan pushed Addison away. In this mess, what the hell are you talking about? She called his name Private Ronan. Addison asked, Ronan, if we meet again, could you tell me not to do stupid things and just be a tailor? These words shocked Ronan. I've done so much. She looked at him and smiled. But never that. Hearing that, Ronan thought for a moment, staring straight at her. The 8-winged monster summoned its power. It aimed straight at the 2 humans in front. Immediately, a massive explosion occurred. Addison's gem glowed and then vanished into nothing. Ronan woke up with a start panicking. He shouted, Commander. Ronan shouted, calling her name, Commander? But the peaceful scene in front of him was shocking. He was surprised. No way is this. Under his hand was lush green grass. Ronan jumped up in shock. I can't believe my eyes. Is this my hometown Nimbutan? Have I really gone back to the past? At that moment, the system notified special attention regression, day 1 except 3. Under the big tree, Ronan sat huddled against the trunk, sighing deeply. One hand on his forehead, his eyes blank from what he'd just gone through. The commander's words were true. Recalling that fateful moment, Ronan was shocked by Addison's action. Their lips met, and she transferred a gem to him. This made Ronan ask in shock, "What did you put in my mouth?" But she was completely calm about her plan. "What you just swallowed is a gem that can reverse time." But Addison looked at him with a serious gaze, making her words even more believable. "That's why someone like me, once a tailor, could rise to commander. Though this gem allows time reversal 4 times, I've used it 3 times, so only 1 chance left." Addison's eyes softened, filled with hope for him and her own helplessness. "So I'll give it to you, the power to kill the giants." Knowing that she and Ronan couldn't handle the giants as they were, she whispered in his ear, "I believe you're the key to stopping the world's destruction, so you need to hone your skills. I'm glad you want to do that too." He didn't expect his casual words to stick with Addison. "What? I was just rambling. I was just rambling." Despite his denial, she instructed, "If you want to learn, go to Philion Academy, where there are excellent people, so it should help you." Back in the present, Ronan gritted his teeth. "Damn it. The more I think about it, the madder I get. Is this for real? If this is a dream, wake up already. Even if I did go back, what can I do alone?" Suddenly, Ronan's eyes widened in surprise, as if remembering something. "Huh? Wait, is this the past?" With that thought, he grabbed the stick nearby. Afterward, Ronan jumped up and stared at the big tree. His feet moved quickly across the green grass. Finally, he grabbed the stick and ran fast, excited about seeing his sister again. Under the bright sun, Ronan dashed through the crowd with the stick, thinking of reuniting with his sister. His face lighting up. "If I've really gone back, it's just a little further." Suddenly, Ronan's eyes caught something surprising. From afar, Han's group was bullying someone, and he couldn't help but curse those jerks. Seeing the victim writhing in pain, Ronan wondered, why are they hanging a kid upside down like that? He decided to mind his own business, used to Han's shady acts. They're still the same as ever. But as he turned away, Ronan noticed something odd. Wait, that kid isn't hung by rope, it's magic. The appearance of someone using magic in this remote area confused him. Why is someone so valuable, rarely seen on the battlefield, showing up in the countryside? Remembering something important, he exclaimed in surprise. "Oh yeah, around this time, they should be here too." The atmosphere around Asil grew dark. He trembled violently, his face showing fear. How long are they going to do this? If this keeps up, something bad will happen to that kid. The upside-down kid begged, "Please stop," one leg wrapped in magic light, he cried. "I really don't have money. My mom's medicine this month is expensive." The kid's pitiful situation didn't move Han. He sneered, "Hey, so what do you want me to do? Why should I care about your mom's health?" In a flash, Han's face hardened. He raised his hand, each word followed by a hard slap distorting the kid's face. "If you're a filial son, you should have earned more money." Suddenly, Han stopped and turned to Asil. "Hey, that one's still not learning. Pull him up the tree." Asil was horrified. I can't do that. If I pull him up higher and he slips." Han snapped irritably. "Are you a girl or what? Being so scared. Aren't you the one hanging him? Aren't you the one hanging him?" He warned sharply, "Shut up and pull him up quick, Axel, before you end up hanging with him." Axel yelled, his face pale with fear. Brows furrowed, heart racing. How did it come to this? Was learning magic a mistake? Remembering when he happily showed off magic to the villagers, he emphasized it was just to show he was good at something. His hands shook as he cast the magic, feeling guilty. "I have to tell him I can't do it." But Axel frowned, eyes welling up. "I'm so scared." He bit his lip, motivating himself. "No, I still have to say it." While Han and his crew waited excitedly, he trembled and spoke, "Please." The moment Axel said, "Please stop," a stick swung toward him. Ronan, after hitting him on the head, reminded, "Stop it. You jerk, you're gonna kill him." The magic cut off and the light around the kid's leg vanished, dropping him to the ground in surprise from Han's group. He angrily said, "What are you doing?" Han charged at Axel, fist raised in threat. He said, "Stop, and you stop." "Did you think I was joking?" He cowered. "No, I didn't mean to." Suddenly, Ronan stepped in front of him and said casually, "Hey, Axel, don't worry about that trash talk to me." Only then did Axel realize who hit him. Ronan ignored Han behind him and kept talking. "Now I have something to discuss with you." Han was furious at being ignored. "Hey, you jerk, seriously?" He asked, "Where did you learn that teleportation magic?" Axel honestly shared, "I learned it from a cheap spell book I bought from a street vendor." His answer surprised and impressed Ronan. "You got that good from a cheap spell book?" He pondered, impressive, I'll observe more, but with this against the giants. A long sword was slowly drawn with a sharp sound. With his battlefield skills and experience, Ronan quickly recognized the sound. Seeing Han with a stern face holding a long sword, he was surprised. A sword. He was almost raging. How dare you ignore me? His eyes blazed, veins popping as he brought up old grudges. Seems like since I let you win, you've gotten cocky. Without another word, he swung the sword at Ronan, yelling, "But today I'll put you in your place." Danger approached, but Ronan stayed calm, eyeing the sword coming at him, thinking, "Oh, a real long sword. Where did he get that?" His stance is terrible, but he's strong enough to boss around here. Ronan leaned back effortlessly, dodging the slash, thinking proudly, of course nothing compared to Manhwa. Han was shocked, uneasy, seeing Ronan dodge so easily. He avoided it that easily. Ronan was pleased with his reflexes, thinking, even though my body's younger, some things stay the same, like the combat instincts from my disciplined soldier days. To hide his brief unease, Han joked, "Just got lucky, huh? I was going to make sure you couldn't lift a spoon for the rest of your life." Ronan didn't bother arguing. "Yeah, right, I'm lucky today, even though I've been unlucky my whole life." Not giving up on making Ronan submit, Han raised his sword in warning. "In that case, kneel and beg, and I'll spare you. Of course you'll only have one hand left." His words didn't affect Ronan, who mocked, "Whoa, I'm scared." Seemingly not noticing Ronan's indifference, Han added, "If I kill you, I'll treat your sister real well." Hearing him mention his sister, Ronan sternly asked, "You said sister." From the other side, Han teased, "Yeah, every time I see her, I think her butt's so perky." If Ronan hadn't waited for Han to finish, his face darkened, eyes terrifying, and he swung the stick hard. Blood droplets flew into the air. Han stood frozen, not yet understanding what happened as one ear flew up. The long sword clattered to the ground. The bone-piercing pain hit, and Han screamed in horror, clutching his head. My ear, my ear." This made his followers behind him turn pale with fear. A pair of brown shoes approached, followed by a cold voice. "Hey!" Ronan's face darkened as he snapped, "You piece of trash." Ronan's eyes bulged with anger, veins popping. "Do you want to die?" In the empty field, the thugs watched Ronan beat Han, terrified. How was that possible? Did he cut that ear with a wooden stick? He spoke, making them jump. "Hey, you jerks, enjoying the show." Ronan kicked Han, making him yell in pain. "If you don't want to end up like this idiot, get out of here." Han clutched his bleeding head in fear, and of course remember to leave the money you stole and compensate for my emotional distress. Yes, they agreed, we'll return it. Ronan gave the stolen money back to the kid, surprising him. "Here, it's yours." The kid asked, "You're giving it all to me?" "It's more than what they took from me." "Don't worry about it, I just need that." The kid was overjoyed, hugging the money. "Don't worry about them getting revenge, they won't hang around here anymore." "Thank you, you're so kind." Ronan waved it off. "No problem, go home." "You remember how scared you were back then?" "I know I shouldn't have done that even if Han threatened me." Axel burst into tears, "But I was so scared I couldn't do anything. It's all my fault, I sincerely apologize." He let out a sigh and smiled. "Axel, you're being a crybaby again." "It's all my fault, I sincerely apologize." He let out a sigh and smiled. "Axel, you're being a crybaby again. When Han brought you here and I saw you, I thought you must be in the same situation as me." He placed his hand on Axel's shoulder to comfort her. "So Axel, don't blame yourself like that." Axel waved goodbye to him in return. Ronan gazed thoughtfully down at Axel, his eyes seeing her as a kind and lovely girl. "Yeah," Ronald smirked. "Yeah, she's all right." He nudged Axel's shoulder lightly, making her jump. "Hey, do you remember I said I had something to discuss with you?" "Yeah," Ronald smirked. "Yeah, she's like that." He nudged Axel's shoulder, making him jump. "Hey, remember I said I had something to discuss with you?" "Oh, yeah." Ronald turned away. "Great, so in 4 days we'll meet here, right?" "In 4 days. Axel turned and asked Ronan, "What do you mean?" "I have things to do, see you later." "I have things to do, see you later when the moon rises." He drew his sword, looking at Axel with a warning glare, making him pale. "Of course, if you don't show, you know what happens, right?" He ran off, leaving Axel alone, speechless. "All right, I'm off. If you're late, you're done for." Axel was stunned. "Huh?" Sunlight hit him, casting his shadow. Deep in the forest was a small house. Ronan stood at the door, sunlight hitting him, casting his shadow on the door. Then Ronan held a bouquet of fresh roses. "Is this too much?" "I remember she likes flowers, so I picked whatever I saw." He felt embarrassed and wanted to throw them away. "I knew it, I should toss them." The wooden house door opened and a pair of feet stepped out. She wondered who was outside. Turns out it's you. While in the army, I always thought about what to say when I saw her again. So apologize for leaving without a word or say I miss her. I've thought about this day, but that's all disciplined soldier Ronan could say. Yes. Iron smiled brightly. All I can say is you're home early today. He froze at her words. Ronan held the flowers and bowed. Yes, I'm home. The meal was fully prepared by Iron on the table. Oh my gosh, I never thought I'd live to see my cold brother give me flowers. Ronan's sister Iron screamed with joy. This is amazing. As long as you like it. She wanted to get more food for Ronan, but he refused. My sweet brother, is that enough to fill you up? Let me get you more stew. Thanks, but I'm full. Then Ronan looked at Iron and asked, but I have one question. How old are you now? Oh, Ronan, I'm 22, but why are you asking? He hesitated. Oh, I just forgot. How could I forget my sister's age? Iron worried and stood up. Are you hurt or do you have a fever? If she's 22, that means 15 years until those bastards come. She came closer, touching his forehead. I don't think you have a fever. Just as I thought, my sister is still the same. He blankly looked at Arrow's worried expression. Still smiling and kind. I'm sure I'm okay and still warm. I wish this moment could last forever. When Ronan's hand touched Arrow's, but in 15 years to protect this world and her. He held her hand down. Do you have something to say? What is it? Ronan told her, I'm planning to join the academy. Yes, Iron looked at him. Why the academy? Iron's eyes lit up when she heard, really? Iron was so happy she almost cried. Say it again, are you serious? Oh yes, I am. Every time you brought it up, I never listened. Ronan was speechless, seeing her reaction. Can't wait, Arrow. She threw things around the house, searching and saying, I knew this day would come. You're so smart, you'll excel at everything. Thanks, sister. Arrow slammed a pot on the ground. So this is... Both looked into the pot, a surprise gift for you. This is from me. Inside the pot was a pile of gold coins. Money, how did you get so much? I secretly saved it to surprise you. Ronan was stunned, looking at the gold. If you don't change your mind about the academy, I want to pay for your tuition. You're so kind. When did you start this? Yes, go on. But even though I'm grateful, I want you to use this money. Is this not enough? What do you mean? Iron put her hands on her hips, looking at Ronan. It looks like a lot. I don't know, where are you planning to study? But the Royal Academy Philion Academy. She was surprised when he named the school. What? A scream echoed from the wooden house, resounding through the forest. What Philion Imperial Academy? The leading educational institution in the empire, with the most renowned professors from around the world and abundant funds from the great families of the empire. This is the place that gives students the best education, prestigious enough to be called the factory of famous heroes. It's incredibly big. General Adasan, Master Swordsman, Shulifin, the worst criminal, the Ice Witch, and so on. Those from Philion were quite useful during the war. Useful enough that I can understand why the general mentioned it to me in that dark forest. Ronan walked alone with his backpack. Oh, with such high standards and a huge fee, its fame is an issue too. He thought about Iron, but her reaction. Of course, if it's Ronan, you can do it. Ronan's steps halted, his eyes showing determination. All right, I'll show you the results. A pair of feet blocked Ronan's path. But first, I didn't know you'd be here, Axel. Stepping out from behind the tree, Axel, that's not Axel, it's Axel. Seeing Ronan, he became awkward. And you said you wouldn't let me be if I didn't come, so forget about that. He took off his backpack tonight. We'll be busy, and I need to check a few things about you. Then Ronan threw the backpack down with a thud. Lesson 1. The test. He raised his hand, leaving Axel confused. What are you suddenly saying? It's nothing much. Ronan smiled, pointing at himself. Use your mind power on me. Lift me as high as you can. Well, after hearing that, sweat poured down his face. Mind power. Why suddenly? Axel asked confusedly. Ronan, wait. Why should I do something so dangerous? It's not that dangerous, just do as I say first. Come on, raise your hand, you're hesitant. I won't die, so don't be scared. All right, so a green light emitted from his hands. I'll start. Then Axel shouted, raising his hand toward Ronan. An invisible hand. Ronan was surprised as the light surrounded him. The light flew around Ronan's feet, lifting him up. Look, it's much better. But Ronan floated in the air, smiling. Better than I thought, though still lacking in height and balance. This feels just like back then in the battle with A2 use. That helped me fight that jerk on equal terms. Mind power. Mind power is a rare ability, even rare among wizards. This means he'll be one of the most important factors in supporting the battle against a Hayut. Starting like this. Axel closed his eyes, trembling as he spoke to Ronan. There, Ronan. It's a bit hard for me to control. From above, he drew his sword, looking at Axel. Can you lower me now? Keep it up a bit longer. I have one more thing to check. Axel frowned, worried for Ronan. I'll lower myself. What? What do you mean by lower yourself? Ronan raised his sword high, slashing into the air. Axel stared wide-eyed at his action. What was that? Ronan jumped down from above without a scratch. Just now, Ronan cut my mana flow. So you just did what Axel asked about Ronan's action. Nothing, just a flip I knew how to do forever ago. Oh, come on. Then he punched Axel in the head. What do you mean by flip? This is the first time I've seen someone cut mana. Whatever, I don't know why either. Then Ronan sheathed his sword. He thought figuring out this skill is going to be a whole homework assignment. The sword reflected the image of the giant Ahayut. The reason my sword affected him, maybe that's why. I can think about that later. So now Ronan picked up his backpack. I have things to do anyway. You've passed Axel. And Axel caught the bag he threw. Take this and follow me before the moon fully sets. We have a few things to do. He smirked. A late night like this. What do you mean under the moonlight? Ronan's eyes glowed. This could be the first page in Ronan's autobiography, the greatest book in the Empire. Moonlight shone on the dark forest. Only Axel and Ronan were there. Philion Academy, right? You said. I must have heard wrong, Ronan. We're going to Philion Academy, where only the Empire's elites are. Ronan glanced at Axel to answer his question. You and I are sure, so don't ask again. It's annoying. He looked at Axel's hesitant state and asked, so you don't want to go? No, that's not the issue, he answered confusedly. You're talented in combat, so you'll be fine, but I don't know anything. But Ronan's eyes turned fierce at Axel, plus I'm cowardly and taciturn. Axel, do you want to keep living like that? He was startled. Axel froze at Ronan's words. With your natural talent, you're wasting it by being a joke to everyone. Ronan crossed his arms over his chest, closed his eyes, and said, honestly, you've got such a foolish way of thinking. He's cowardly and quiet, and Ronan's words hit Axel like a knife to the chest. You turned into a crybaby crying over everything, and you're a scared failure. But that's okay because you can still change from now on, though. The time that's passed can't be gotten back. And one day you'll regret it just like I did. An image of Ronan holding a blood-stained sword on the battlefield from his past life flashed as he placed his hand on Axel's shoulder and asked, what do you think? Changed your mind yet? Ronan suddenly noticed the boy's cheeks turning bright red. Oh my God, Ronan. Axel covered his mouth with his hand, looking at him with emotional eyes, wondering why he was so worried about someone like me all this time. I won't force you because it's your life. So if you want, you can go back to that way of living. Then Axel shouted as he saw Ronan turning to leave. Wait, I'm busy now, so hold on, Ronan. I want to change too. Ronan smiled smugly when he heard that, saying, I'll go to Philion with you, so teach me what I need to do. On the outside, he acted uninterested, but inside he was thrilled. All right, this is the first time you've shown some real manhood, Axel. So for Axel's great manly first step, let's get started right away. Ronan's face showed clear satisfaction and glee as he turned his back to him, thinking, just as I expected. The flames burst up, making the air around them warm. Axel was on alert, seeing the light in the forest. Ronan and Axel hid in the bushes and whispered to each other, is that my first step, Ronan? Of course, next to the fire was a goblin, the best opponent I could find to bring out all your talents. The goblin was leaning against a large rock, resting, and it was a moon goblin, the leader with many others scattered around, sleeping on the ground. Ronan smiled brightly and patted Axel on the shoulder to encourage him, but seeing the situation, the boy trembled and turned pale, asking, what do you think, Axel? Isn't it awesome? How about it? Ronan's eyes lit up like he'd found prey, saying, all right, let's get started, shall we? Against 6, Ronan and Axel lurked in the grass. Moon goblins are goblins that often appear in this area. Most people can easily distinguish them from regular goblins by their yellow skin and deformed bodies. But their true characteristic is that they're obsessed with gold and jewels, ambushing merchants to rob them, gathering all the stolen goods in one place, and holding a dazzling jewel-light festival under the full moon sky on a night like tonight. As soon as Axel heard that, he trembled in fear, asking, so the real reason we're here is to... That's right, with Ronan's face showing excitement. We're going to steal all that gold and jewelry. Axel observed the situation and said, I've never heard of goblins gathering jewels in one place for a festival. He opened the empty backpack and asked, but how do you know about that? I have my ways. I can't tell him it's from my past life. As they wandered, Ronan put his arm around Axel's shoulder, making him flustered. Anyway, you just need to use your remote control ability to transfer all those jewels into this bag while they're still asleep. With their faces close, easy, right? With their faces close, easy, right? That doesn't sound easy at all. What if I mess up and wake them? Axel imagined the goblin waking up. Then asked Ronan fearfully, which annoyed him. This is too dangerous. We should think it through again. If you're that chicken, Ronan started explaining the theory to Axel. Look to get into Philion Academy. We need two things first. Money for that insane tuition and second, real experience. Money's an issue, but experience is even more important. You know, Philion is full of nobles trained from birth. If you want to beat them, there's only one way, Axel, he threatened, risk your life. Know those goblins are the perfect opponents. We'll get both money and experience, killing two birds with one stone. Axel sat down and burst into tears, saying, did I say something wrong, or do you have a better idea? No, let's go with that. He slapped him hard on the back to encourage him. All right, let's do this. The moon shone on the forest leaves. The gold items floated in the air and then dropped straight into the bag Ronan had opened. More and more things fell in. Okay, a little more, just a bit more. Axel stared wide-eyed, puffed his cheeks, and used all his strength to transfer the items into the bag. All right, keep going. As soon as he heard Ronan's command, the items fell in. He grinned happily as each item dropped into the bag. Awesome. Ronan looked inside the bag. This is the last bag. The two bags were full. Gold, silver, jewels, all full. Ronan was overjoyed. He turned Axel's head with his hand, messing up his hair like a bird's nest. I told you Axel experience is key. Yeah, you're right. We did it. Ronan looked at him and smiled contentedly. Honestly, I wasn't that confident you'd adapt so quickly. Axel smiled with satisfaction. He's more talented than I thought. We did it. You don't know what's behind you. Ronan grinned like a devil. I found a great sidekick. He reached into the bag, checked it, and said, all right, the bags are full of gold. Let's go. Really, so we're done. Ronan closed the bag and replied, yeah, nothing left to do. Let's head back before trouble finds us. A crow flew quickly ahead. The poachers chased after the crow. Damn it, they shouted. Hey, you two brats. Ronan and Axel grabbed the bags about to leave, but heard the shout and turned back. Stop right there. Ronan wondered what maniacs are yelling in the middle of the night. The loud noise woke the lead goblin. What's going on? It looked toward the treasure pile. This late, where's that noise coming from? The goblin noticed all the treasure in the pile was gone. What's this? Where's my shiny treasure? Seeing that, it shouted, waking all the others. Thieves, they started gathering together. What thieves? Where are they? The lead goblin spotted them. Looking toward Ronan and Axel leaving. The two were panicking when they saw the goblins had spotted them. Oh crap! The goblins roared in anger and charged at the two. This is bad. Axel was terrified. He was so scared he fell to the ground. Ronan saw that and got ready to fight. Whew! I knew it wouldn't go that smoothly. He sat on the ground and looked up at Ronan. Axel was shaking all over in fear and desperately asked, what now, Ronan? Should we ditch the bags and run? No way. He slowly drew his sword. Without this money, how will you pay tuition? How will you come up with that cash? But that's not important right now. The goblins charged fast. Their eyes were red with rage, like they wanted to devour Ronan and Axel alive. He shouted, clinging to Ronan, they're coming, they're coming! Ronan looked at his sword and thought, a long sword forged from cheap metal with this weight and durability. Ronan's eyes reflected the sharp blade. I can probably get about 15 strikes. There are around 30 of them. Their sharp claws lunged at him. Axel screamed from behind. Ronan's eyes darkened. He raised his sword, carefully sensing the situation around him. 15 strikes. Ronan drew his sword forcefully. With one swing, he decapitated the goblins. Blood from their heads sprayed everywhere. Axel stared in shock as the goblins' heads flew off their necks. Ronan's sword was covered in their blood. Ronan's eyes were sharp. His expression thrilled like a wolf on the hunt. 14 more strikes. Again, 7 groups. The crows shrieked loudly in the night. At the same time, the final strike was unleashed. Ronan exhaled. That's the last one, right? It wasn't that hard. Axel couldn't believe the scene in front of him. He thought, what the hell did I just witness? Recalling Ronan's incredible moment, he was completely stunned. He sliced 3 goblins' heads with one swing. And the goblins charging from afar too. Ronan vanished and reappeared in an instant. With a few swift strikes, he took down the unlucky goblins. Axel couldn't help but swallow hard, staring at the cool figure in the distance. Yeah, Ronald smirked. Yeah, she's about that. He nudged Axel's shoulder lightly, making her jump. Hey, don't you remember I said I had something to discuss with you? Axel was a bit excited. He never expected to witness such a scene. Ronan turned back and asked Axel, what are you doing? I don't know. Pick it up. The sword. Ronan replied, no need to apologize. Hurry and grab your stuff. He laughed and said, let's head home. Let's head home. The night enveloped the quiet forest. Ronan's group was still on their way to the new location. He rubbed his sore shoulder and groaned, "Man, I'm exhausted. I thought we could travel comfortably, but it's way harder than expected." Axel next to him wasn't much better off. With his hand on Ronan's shoulder, he thought, "After chopping just a few goblins, my muscles are already aching. Is it because I'm still growing? When I get home, I need to step up my physical training." Suddenly, Axel spoke up and asked Ronan, "What was that terrifying scream just now?" Ronan replied, "I don't know," he thought back. Earlier, there were 7 screams from nowhere ruining their heist plan. "No," he said cheerfully, "who's yelling in the middle of the night? Those crazies can wait. I'll make them pay for their actions." The two didn't notice an arrow heading toward them. Immediately, a red arrow was shot without warning. It flew fast toward Axel. But as he sensed something and turned around, the arrow was about to hit him. In a flash, Ronan reacted, catching the arrow with his hand. Before Axel could move, he yelled, "Damn it, straight to the point." At that moment, Axel grasped the situation. He shouted in fear, "An arrow, where did this thing come from?" Ronan said warily, "Could it be from that cursed forest? Why are there so many lunatics there?" But suddenly, 2 strangers caught their eye from behind. "And they're just kids." "Huh, who are you two?" the black-haired guy said. "What's this?" "Yeah," Ronald smirked. "Yeah, she's about that." He nudged Axel's shoulder lightly, making her jump. "Hey, don't you remember I said I had something to discuss with you? We're just humans and kids at that." The comment quickly got under Ronan's skin. "We heard some rustling in the distance, so we thought it was a monster." As he spoke, his eyes were fixed on Ronan's bag full of jewels. He acted remorseful. "Oh man, we almost killed someone, huh?" He acted remorseful. "Oh man, we almost killed someone." He signaled with his eyes to the guy behind. He pretended to care. "Are you two hurt?" But before he could finish, Ronan cut in. "Nonsense, you can't even hide your eyes." Seeing they were exposed, the two looked stunned. "Huh," Ronan continued. "Cut the crap and answer me." His eyes flashed gold, looking dangerous. He threatened, "Who are you two?" The two shivered at his gaze and yelled. The black-haired guy still tried to play innocent, smiling as he approached Ronan. "On second thought, it was our fault." As he spoke, he secretly drew a sword and swung at Ronan, yelling, "Introducing Caliboro." Ronan muttered, "Caliboro." Then in a flash, he grabbed the guy's arm, making him scream in pain. Then he quickly uppercut him, making him spit blood with wide eyes. Ronan mocked, "Is that the name of crap?" The blonde guy saw his friend go down fast and charged, "You little brat!" Axel watched from the side and yelled, "Watch out, Ronan!" At the same time, he used his magic. He shouted a warning, "Danger!" He used his invisible hand to control the blonde guy. Feeling his body couldn't move, he yelled, "What?" "I can't move." Seeing that, Ronan cheered, "Oh, nice one, Axel." Then he kicked the knife out of the blonde guy's hand. He quickly grabbed the knife and threw invisible strikes. The blonde guy didn't even realize what was happening. His body took a series of hits. He only managed to say, "What the hell are you?" before collapsing with a scream of pain. Looking at the body slumped before him, Axel jumped and yelled. He asked in fear, "Ronan, is he dead?" Ronan calmly replied, "Dead, I have to leave a way out for someone who tried to kill me." "Didn't you hear what they said?" "They're Caliboro." Axel replied blankly, "Caliboro." He explained, "Poaching, kidnapping, human trafficking. That group does every crime. They're the most vicious criminals in the Empire. So you know." As he spoke, he gave the black-haired guy a fatal stab. "If not for me, your organs would have been taken. Today would have been your secret funeral." Axel couldn't argue and yelled, "That can't be," he said. Ronan replied, "Letting them live to keep committing crimes would be stupid." Suddenly, the bag moved. Ronan told Axel, "Don't cause more trouble. Hurry and get the stuff." But the bag jumped up, stopping him. Seeing the bag moving non-stop, Ronan wondered, "What's wrong with this bag?" "Why is it moving?" Axel replied, "Those two must have brought it." "Is it a hunted animal?" As he untied the bag, Ronan guessed, "Yeah, probably." "All right, we're opening it now." As soon as he opened it, a pair of sharp green eyes looked at him. A black shadow shot up with a cry that echoed through the forest, leaving the two unable to react. Staring at the strange blue bird in front of them, the two were dumbfounded. Ronan stammered, "What's up with this chicken? With 8 feathers, it's blue." The chicken didn't understand what Ronan was saying. It chirped, "Cheap, cheap." Axel clasped his hands and looked at it excitedly, saying, "Ronan, I've never seen a bluebird before." He replied, "Me neither, but is that Caliboro's shackle?" A sturdy shackle made of iron appeared. Caliboro's hunting shackle disrupts mana and restricts movement. Ronan pondered, "I thought they rarely use it or only for mythical creatures." So that bluebird, Ronan cast some spell on the bluebird. It was flying when it suddenly spoke, answering now. Suddenly, the bluebird shouted in surprise, as if it couldn't believe what was happening. It yelled, "Finally connected." So Axel hugged Ronan in fear and asked, "Did that bird just talk?" Annoyed, he pushed his face away. "You think it really talked? It's a communication spell." Ronan thought it connected as soon as it flew out. He looked at the thing on the ground and continued guessing, "That bag must block mana. You're probably the owner of this bird, right?" And somehow his voice reached some mysterious person. "Yeah," Ronald smirked. "Yeah, she's all right." He nudged Axel's shoulder lightly, making her jump. "Hey, do you remember I said I had something to discuss with you?" He said, "That's right, I'm Varan, and I'm currently researching mythical creatures. I'm a guardian of Maypete. No matter how many times I tried to communicate, it didn't work." Ronan pushed Axel aside and boldly replied, "We're just passers-by. We just fought off the poachers who captured the bird. And then things got bloody hard to describe." He recalled fighting them, not sure how to say it. He looked at Maypete and continued, "We saved it." He exclaimed in surprise, "What poachers? But I didn't expect this to actually happen. I considered it, but didn't expect this to actually happen. I owe you a lot. I don't know how to repay you." Axel seemed to get used to it. He approached and looked at the bird excitedly. "No need, but how do we return the bird to you? It looks tired from being tied up." Ronan looked at the shackle on the bird's leg and asked, "If we remove this, can it fly?" The person replied, "Yeah, probably. Dream birds remember home well, so if you release it." Before he finished, Ronan drew his sword and said, "All right then." He swung the sword quickly and neatly under the bird's surprised and fearful gaze. It only dared to chirp a few times. Then the iron chains shattered into pieces. He sheathed his sword and said, "Go back to your dad, Blue Bird. Don't worry him." Ronan didn't know, but in its eyes, he looked just like a prince from a romance story. In its eyes, he glowed with light. It stared in admiration, its tail chirping, "Cheep, cheep." Ronan looked at it puzzled. It's chirping in my face. What does that mean?" He replied, "It wants you to pluck a feather before it flies away. It seems like it wants to see you again. After you pluck a dream bird's feather, it can lead its owner to you like a compass. Have you plucked it if you have stopped by the research center and visit Mayped and me? I'll repay you." With that, the bird with the golden mark flew away. He watched it go, eyes wide in admiration. "It's fast." Axel curiously looked at his hand. "What do you have?" Ronan followed his gaze to his hand and noticed, in his hand was something round. In the empty forest, he looked at his hand and wondered, "What is this?" A few days later, at a place like a camp or market, people were busy transporting goods. A merchant held up a sapphire blue gem necklace, examined it with his eyes and praised, "Oh, the value and craftsmanship of this jewelry are truly precious. I'll give you 20 gold coins." The caravan leader, Carabel Duon, said, "Everything you brought is valuable. I'm lucky today. I got a customer like you." Axel hid behind Ronan's arm and heard him say boldly, "Finally, someone who gets it. The other merchants are all scammers." Just earlier, he argued with that merchant, this for 5 gold coins. "Are you blind, old man?" The old man snapped back, "What did you say?" Axel had to pull Ronan away. "Calm down." Ronan sighed in frustration. "I was so pissed, but luckily I met a sharp merchant like you. It was worth wandering around." "I'm glad you said that." Carabel happily shook his hand. "Thank you, I'm glad you said that." Axel sighed in relief. He asked, "Do you want to appraise anything else?" Ronan reached into his pocket, pulled something out, and said, "How about this? No, I'm not selling it. I just want to know what it is. It's shiny and oval-shaped." What he brought out had colors like a sparkling galaxy and was oval-shaped. As soon as he saw it, the man adjusted his glasses, looking surprised. Ronald looked at it and recalled, "That bluebird or dream bird left this. This egg, at first I thought it crapped on my hand, but it wasn't. Remember," he grumbled, "this chicken dares repay me with this crap." And to check it, Ronan yelled and threw it at a rock. Wow, he thought he threw it at the rock to test it. Surprisingly, the egg shattered the rock and he realized it was very hard. Both sprayed glue looking at the shattered rock. "Ronaldo," he looked at the man examining the egg. "I'm not sure if it's an egg or what, but it's from a rare mythical creature. It could be worth a fortune." And Carabel examined it for a while, his face serious, saying, "The color, the texture, this can't be." Ronan's face lit up as he looked at him, and then the man said bluntly, "Horse poop?" He froze. He sprayed glue. Ronald took the egg back, denying, "Of course not." The man scratched his head and laughed. "Yeah, I don't know what it is. I think it's a rare item. Why don't you take it to a professional for appraisal?" He sighed and put it back in his pocket. "Yeah, I should. Now I'm curious, so I won't sell it yet." A seal pondered nearby. "So is that a hardened piece of poop?" Ronan continued, do you sell books about Filion? He asked. Filion Academy. We're planning to take the entrance exam. He pointed at Axel and explained, yeah, we're planning to take the Filion entrance exam, but we don't know much about it. He perked up. The entrance exam. Right on time, my daughter is preparing for it too. She can probably help you too. She should be back soon. At that moment, a female voice called from afar. What's going on, Dad? Who are they? Carabel and the two turned around. He smiled. Ah, she's back. This is my only daughter, Maria. The woman with long hair blowing in the wind looked at them. Ronan was startled. Huh, Maria is her. Carabel called her over. Maria, say hello to our guests. We just fought off some poachers who captured the bird. These are the big shots I just dealt with. She suddenly asked, huh, really, these little ones? He was startled and scolded. What kind of talk is that, kid? Aesel waved it off. It's okay. But Ronan, well, he hadn't even finished asking before he walked away. He stepped toward her and said, hey, are you Maria? She looked at him and replied, what's up? Ronan continued, Maria with the middle name Sen, right? She admitted confusingly, yeah, but how do you know? Ronan sweated, puzzled. Weird, you look just like her. But the one I know, I'll ask you one more thing. Lean in, he gestured to his ear. She leaned in close, waiting. What do you want to ask? Ronan whispered, so down there, do you have it, that bird thing? She looked at him like he was an idiot. What nonsense did I just hear? Ronan seemed serious, waiting for an answer. Maria fell into her own thoughts. Private parts. He, not understanding her angry face, added, no matter how you look at it, you don't seem to have it. Does that old man have another kid he doesn't know about? Yeah, thinking about it as he glanced, he got slapped. Maria angrily yelled, shut up, you lunatic. Ronan even guessed about the slap. It felt familiar. That's her Countess Maria Seno. Maria Sen when I was a disciplined soldier in what's called Amaclin. Maria handled equipment with an excellent work style and an open personality, chatting with anyone without hesitation. Maria was an admirable person. But when it came to private parts and guys' conversations, Maria got unusually angry and slapped me. I always wondered why. If I met Maria again, I wanted to ask about that reason. But that chance never came because Maria died before I could ask. But I never thought I'd find the answer here. Countess Maria, are you a woman? She looked at him and yelled, why are you laughing? Was that slap not enough? I'll give you another one. Ronald got mad and tapped her head. Stop it, you. Do you think I'll let you slap me and get away with it? I let you slap me once because, I was wrong, but I won't. Before he finished, Maria headbutted his chin and yelled, so what if I slap you again, you nut job? What are you going to do? The two grabbed each other's hair. Ronaldo had no choice but to yell, this is insane, die already. The two fought fiercely. The other two witnessed this and froze speechless. Don't stop fighting. They quickly ran to break it up. A while later, Aesel stared blankly. What's with those two? They just fought like it was life or death. Maria rubbed her hair and asked, so are these the things left for you to use? Ronaldo rested his chin and replied, yeah, check if they're okay. Aesel looked at them thoughtfully. But now what? Ronaldo chatted with Maria, if not, I'll get something else. Aesel looked at the scene in confusion. They're getting along again. Maria drew her sword and asked, 3 swords and a wand. Maria drew her sword and asked him, 3 swords and a magic wand. They're giving you 3 swords. Carrying all that must be a hassle, right? He casually said, well, just in case. My swordplay is a bit rough. So how about them, Maria commented. They're not bad, but this black iron sword is the best. Black iron is pretty sturdy, so it's an item that famous knights often seek. I don't know how rough your swordplay is, but this sword definitely won't break. It was my favorite weapon in the past. It used to be my favorite weapon in the past. Maria continued, but this magic wand has a great magic stone attached, so leaving it with you. Is this girl a wizard? Maria smiled at Aesel. She nodded. Yes, that's right. She asked, what kind of magic do you use? Aesel shyly replied, remote control magic. Maria surprisingly praised remote control. That's impressive. If you do well, you could even get a scholarship. Aesel rubbed her head and chuckled. Really? Maria looked at him. So the issue now is how you'll perform. Which technique in the practical exam? Ronan asked impatiently. The technique she had explained so thoroughly. You don't know. To get into Filion, you need to impress the professors and show your technique in the practical exam. Of course, the theory exam is tough, but it's nothing compared to the practical one. So the key point is, if you do well in the practical exam, you'll pass. In other words, if you can't prove your worth, you should forget about getting into the academy. Ronan sighed and replied, what a swordsman just needs to be good with a sword for heaven's sake. So what do people usually show? Maria said, Well, most nobles show their family secrets, and most fighters and other candidates show their personal mana combat techniques. Ronan interrupted. Wait, mana what? Can young swordsmen at this age use mana even if they're not wizards? Maria looked at him in surprise. What are you talking about? If you're a future student of Philion using it as a given, you can sense mana too, and with that amount you can apply it in real combat. That's the most basic of the basics. What's with that expression? Like you've never heard it before. Ronan looked at her full of question marks like it was his first time hearing it. She trembled and pointed at him. Don't tell me you don't know how to sense mana. Ronan casually asked, what? Isn't it similar to using aura? Maria was totally shocked. She covered her face and slumped over, mumbling, oh my God, I'm talking to someone like this. And he's rambling about getting into Philion. How are aura and mana similar? How could you even say that? Ronan placed his hand on his neck and softly replied, maybe I've heard of it before. You're making a big deal out of nothing. Maria stood up and said, this is pointless. Get out now. Ronan looked at her puzzled. Why so sudden? She didn't answer him and continued, also, can I borrow these short swords? I left my sword at the blacksmith. Ronan watched Maria take the swords and just said, what? Wait, why are you doing this? What if you damage my swords? Maria smiled and walked away. Don't worry, the fight will end before that happens. If it does, I'll pay you back double, no triple. How about that? He was speechless and sighed, goodness. Maria looked at him seriously, so stop rambling. Come with me, I'll give you special training. Mana is the source of natural power like air. It's a type of natural energy that exists everywhere in the world. However, that doesn't mean anyone can use it. To use mana, you need to see and feel the mana inside you and be able to use it. To reach this stage of sensing mana, it requires training natural talent and countless personal reasons that can influence it. But usually it takes a year of training to start sensing it. And all future students of Philion have passed this stage. After practicing their own mana techniques, they apply to Philion. Do you get it now? Don't say you can't even tell the difference between aura and mana. Yet you want to get into Philion, that's nonsense. Maria held the sword and looked at him, sighing, all right, fine. From your perspective, aura is also a type of mana, but the difference between them is like night and day. Ronan asked, what's the difference? Even famous geniuses have to train hard for at least 15 years shedding blood nonstop to awaken that innate power which is aura. Maria asked, so have you understood anything yet? Ronan cluelessly replied, not really. In my memory, I've encountered them on the battlefield sometimes. They brag about using aura and having extraordinary power. They were really annoying, but in the end, they weren't that scary because if you chop off their heads, anyone dies. Maria cut off his thoughts. Okay, let's leave the explanation for later. Let's get started. I think you'll learn faster if you absorb it with your body rather than your head. Ronan quietly observed her stance and guessed, well, she's just a young girl in an instant. Maria lunged at Ronan. He opened his eyes wide in surprise at her incredible speed. He suddenly thought, she's this strong at such a young age. And she uses dual swords, too. Maria was a bit worried. I'm not sure, but is this some kind of mana combat technique? Seeing him in surprise, she asked herself, what's wrong with this guy? The two continued to fight fiercely with swords. She thought I was planning to finish him in one blow. I was going to show him Mana's power and make him give up the exam. It'd be better to be humiliated here. But I'm the one getting pushed back. It can't be just the skills of someone who can't use mana. Impossible. Suddenly he asked her, what are you thinking? In her carelessness, she was pushed back and her sword knocked away again. His eyes suddenly lit up like a cat's in the night. He held his sword high and yelled, stop blocking, dodge. She was surprised when his sword swung down. Luckily, she dodged in time. She jumped and slid far back. The sword scraping the ground made a piercing sound. She sighed in relief. If I was a second slower, something bad would have happened. You're not ordinary at all. He smirked. You too. He put away his sword and continued, beside his mana, you're talented with the sword. But your center of gravity is a bit unstable. If you fix that, you'll be much better. She asked in surprise, huh? What? Where are you going? She angrily pointed her sword at him. Don't tell me you think you won. He calmly replied, whatever. Remember your promise. You said it right. 3 times. She opened her eyes wide in surprise and asked, huh? She hesitated. No. At that point, he ignored her and said, have the sword price ready. She was in a state of surprise and didn't know what to say when someone's finger lightly touched her back. Then he turned and walked away, adding, If you fix that, you'll be much better. She asked in surprise, huh? What? Where are you going? She angrily pointed her sword at him and said, don't tell me you think you've won. He calmly replied, whatever. Remember your promise. You said it right. 3 times. Her eyes widened in surprise as she asked, huh? She hesitated and said, no. At that moment, he ignored her and continued, have the price of the sword ready. She was in a state of shock and didn't know what to say when someone's finger lightly touched her back. That person hesitated. Yeah, it was Aesel. She understood how she felt at that moment and smiled, saying, you did great. Suddenly, someone called out, hurry up, Aesel, I'm tired. She stammered, okay. She stood there stunned, wondering, who are they? He saw Aesel arriving late and asked, why are you so slow? She just smiled. The sky today was cloudy but very clear, signaling a beautiful day. Everyone was busy transporting goods. Someone said, I'm just here to collect the money. He and Axel looked surprised at the thing in front of them. He asked, but what is that, books? In front of them were neatly packed books in 2 cases. She replied, yeah, it's for the Philian theory exam study. I compiled it. She teased, you don't need it. The exam is in a month. Axel's eyes lit up like stars. He calmly asked, we need it, but why did you do this? He was about to unsheath the sword in front of her, threatening, if you're plotting something. Mid-sentence, she said, no, don't worry, I just like you guys. Then she laughed and added, I'm doing this so you can pass. Of course it's free. Aesel's face looked mesmerized after hearing that. He sighed in relief. Oh, if it's free, then... She interrupted, if possible, I'd like to tutor you two. But I have to go now. She lightly punched his chest and laughed, study hard. If you fail like this, I won't let it slide, got it? He smiled back and replied, you have to study hard too. She got on the carriage, waved goodbye with a smile and said, see you in the capital on exam day then. Make sure to read all the books. He looked at his palm and thought to himself, I need to toughen up this weak body of mine. I also need to study since I can't rely on luck. But this feeling is really great. Ronan's life after returning home was similar to before, but with some small changes. He ate with Enro so much that it surprised her. He ate with such gusto that his belly was always full after every meal. Enro happily said, my little brother eats like a champ. Besides that, he started hunting monsters in the outskirts of the village and began building his endurance and adaptability. He sheathed his sword gently and sighed in relief. On the ground, monsters lay scattered, defeated by him. He said to himself, that's good enough for today, right? He hunted so many monsters that none lingered around the village anymore. On top of that, he studied, which was unheard of for a disciplined soldier. He grumbled, wait a minute, why do I have to remember the Northerners' eating rules? Even if he didn't know the outcome, he was giving it his all. Time flew by in a month. Today was a beautiful day, signaling good luck. Valon, the capital city, appeared with its grand palaces and magnificent houses. Right in the heart of the capital is the empire's top educational institution, the small city of the White Tower. Aesel said in surprise, is this Philion? Philion is so beautiful, it's huge. Ronan said, what are you doing standing in the middle of the road like that, Aesel? Stop acting so unsophisticated. Get in or we'll be late for the test. Aesel hesitated and said after hearing Ronan scolding him, sorry. He frowned and asked back, why are you talking like that? Aesel replied, it's nothing, I'm just surprised. Aesel replied, it's nothing, I'm just surprised. Then he flicked Aesel's head while saying, stop talking nonsense and hurry up. Aesel yelped, ouch. He turned around and thought to himself that he was finally in Philion. He turned around. He thought to himself, now I remember we're in Philion, so I might run into him, the one Ronan was thinking of, Sword Saint Sleef, Fangrancia's descendant from a famous swordsmanship family, considered the Empire's strongest genius. He figured he was around his age, so he might meet him at the exam. But it doesn't really matter. As he was thinking, Axel asked, but hey, Ronan, do you have that thing? He asked curiously, huh? What thing? She said, the bird's butt feather from last time. It can lead us to the owner of that bird. He replied, oh, I thought you meant something else. He pulled out the bird's feather and said, I brought it along. Since I remembered the owner lives in the capital, I plan to visit after the exam. Huh, that feather points up. He exclaimed in shock, the top floor. Sunlight streamed through the window. A sigh and a voice echoed, it's not easy at all. I'm still not used to this professor job. Maybe I should just go back to research. The bird on his shoulder chirped cheerfully. He stroked the little bird and said happily, are you cheering me on, Mark Pet? Yeah, I have to keep trying to repay the hero who saved you. The person speaking was Philion's zoology professor Varen Fantasy. His trait is that of a lion. He gently asked the little bird, "All right, I'll open the window for some fresh air. And if our hero drops by today, it'll be trouble, right?" What the heck outside the window was Ronald with a fierce look, smiling at him and saying, "I didn't even knock, but it opened by itself. Oh, is that the blue bird from before? So you're the owner." A beastman, Varen, and the bluebird froze in fear. The frightened cries of the lion and the bird blended together, echoing from the palace side. Varen Fantasy hugged Moped in fear and said, "Who are you people, and how did you get in here?" "This is one of the highest floors." Ronan scratched his ear and complained, "You scared me half to death. I thought I went deaf." Here Aesel climbed in through the window and said, "That's why I told you to take the stairs." He hugged it tightly and asked, "Did you follow my Macbeth?" At that moment, he held out a blue feather. Varen Fantasy was surprised. That feather, you must be the saviors who freed my little one. At that point, all three were seated properly. He said, "Oh dear, I've been so rude in front of my benefactors. Please forgive me." Ronan said, "I told you it's fine. Why keep bringing it up? If we're being precise, it's his fault. He climbed out the window himself. Aesel looked at him and said, Who? The one who said remote control was annoying for the stairs was Ronan. He pinched Aesel's cheek, making him yelp. Ronan said, "Quiet down. But more importantly, I never imagined the owner of that bird would be a rare lion beastman and a professor at Philion." He continued, still holding Aesel's cheeks, making him squirm to get free. "And a professor at Philion, no less." Varen Fantasy scratched his cheek embarrassedly and replied, "I'm surprised, too. I didn't expect our hero to be an academy applicant. Oh, how embarrassing. If I'd known, I would have written a recommendation letter for you. But today is the exam day. I hope that doesn't happen. But if you fail," he grumbled, "why say something unlucky like that? Anyway, no worries. We're here to ask about something. You know we don't have much time left." Ronald held out a purple object and asked, "What is this?" That blue bird laid it. He adjusted his glasses in confusion. Maple Story laid something. "This is a dream bird egg." Varen Fantasy took the egg and asked, "You say Maple Story laid it?" He calmly replied, "So what, birds laying eggs isn't surprising." He stuttered, This isn't just any bird. It's a dream bird. But even more astonishing is that I don't know what will hatch from this egg." Ronan wondered, "What do you saying? If it's a bird egg, it hatches a bird, right?" Varen Fantasy shook his head and objected. Depending on the surroundings, a dream bird egg absorbs unique mana and lays an egg. For example, if it's around lava, it hatches a fire phoenix. In a monster's nest, the dream bird lays an egg in the shape of that monster. And so on. Some things that hatch don't even look like birds at all. Of course, if I can analyze the mana emanating from that egg, predicting the form of the dream bird inside might be possible. But this egg, he looked at the egg glowing with energies in various vibrant colors, mixed together and said, "It carries a lot of mixed mana fields like alloy smelting. They're melting and blending together. It's tricky and I'm not sure what this egg is." Ronan was surprised. "Oh man, it's just one egg, and you're putting so much thought into it." He turned to Maple Story and asked, "You scoundrel, where did you wander off to produce this egg?" Varen Fantasy said with a serious face. It tilted its head and chirped a few times. He said in astonishment, "I've never seen a bird with such a thick skin." Varen Fantasy said with a serious face, "So I'm asking you, sir, to take care of this egg." Ronan replied, "Well, I don't have a problem with that." He asked, "What do you think? Is it something valuable?" He replied, "Of course, a dream bird only lays once in its lifetime. But since it laid this egg in front of my benefactor, Maple Story must have sensed something special." He happily looked at it, reached out and scratched Maple Story's neck, making it chirp in delight. Varen Fantasy said, "I also want to respect my longtime friend. I'm curious too, so I'll hand this egg over to you." Ronan took the egg, looked at it, and said, "No problem. I'm curious too about what will come out of this shell. It's getting late, and we're done here. Excuse us." He stood up to leave. Varen Fantasy said, "Wait a second. I've been thinking about what to give you, but I just remembered something cool." He turned around to get it. Varen Fantasy handed over a scroll and said, "Here, take this. It'll help you hatch that egg." Both looked puzzled. He asked, "This is—" A moment later in the practical exam hall, the Great Hall of Gallian Palace, the waiting room for candidates. Everyone was there, some praying, some checking their weapons. The proctor announced, candidate number 111 has completed the exam. Next candidate number 112, please. The guy stood up shakily and said, yes, sir. The door opened and he walked in. Ronan thought, 112 already, I'm next. He crossed his legs, rested his chin on his hand and said, they're making us wait forever. Don't you think so, Maria? The blonde next to him replied, exams are always like that. Ronan looked at her and asked, why are you dressed like that? Isn't it uncomfortable? Maria replied cheerfully, oh, I did it on purpose. Philion is the academy for all nobles. Yes, there'll be big customers in the future. So of course I shouldn't be sloppy, right? She winked playfully and made an okay sign with her hand. He said helplessly, you're really dedicated. Maria sat down and complained, it'd be great if our little one was here, what a shame. Ronan replied indifferently, what can we do? The magic exam hall is elsewhere. He's probably not crying, and that's good enough for me. The proctor continued, candidate number 112 has completed the exam. Next candidate number 113, please. The guy from earlier came out with a defeated look, muttering, I'm done for. Ronan stood up and said, it's my turn. Maria encouraged him cheerfully. Don't worry, just do your best like I said. Hey, if you fail, I won't let it go. He walked forward, waved, and said, got it, thanks for the enthusiastic cheer. I'll be back soon. Ronan observed seriously. He thought, these people are Philion's professors. In front of him were 5 professors sitting with a dignified air. Ronan looked at each one, evaluating in his mind. They all look outstanding. But among them, the old man in the middle. He looked at the old man with a serious expression. He was sitting in the middle of the 5, the principal of Philion Academy, the great sorcerer. Ronan glanced to the left and thought, that woman also has an overwhelming presence. In my past life, I rarely felt pressure like this. She is the sword instructor, the great sword Saint Naviros. He bowed and said, I am Ronan. The principal said, nice to meet you, Ronan. I'm the principal of Philion Academy Grava Creatia. Yes, you'll fight a magic dummy, so you can show off your skills. Have you decided what technique to show us? He looked at the dummy and replied, yeah, nothing special. Just a quick sword strike. I think that's enough. The professors looked at him in surprise. One said, a simple strike without even using mana. No one before used something like that. Those guys just judged the dummy's appearance and said stupid things. He joked with the person next to him. The old man beside him replied, if it's a candidate from a distant country, they might not know. Even though it looks like that, the dummy has defense to counter aura and can recover quickly. It's a masterpiece of magic. The blonde old man whispered, even that genius Chief Fan's sword didn't leave a mark. I wonder what he's going to show us. The person next to him replied, who knows? What if he rips it in half? The blonde professor laughed. You're hilarious, man. The principal looked at them warily and thought, I heard that you know. They're saying that right in front of him. What if this kid proves them wrong? He opened his eyes wide in surprise and wondered, how does he have that kind of presence at his age? Ronan stomped to gain momentum, pushing the ground a bit. He dashed forward and struck precisely at the dummy's neck. The female professor gasped in surprise. Ronan! He sheathed his sword. He looked at the professors and said, I'm done. Those 2 professors laughed, wow, done with just 1 strike. The other added, this exam scoring is a bit vague. Don't you think so, principal? The principal was so shocked he couldn't speak. Suddenly, Navi Rose slammed her foot on the table, startling him. Professor Navi Rose charged forward with a fierce glare, went at Ronan's neck. He didn't dodge. Navi Rose stopped. Ronan looked down and said, you scared me. She asked, is that AI sword technique taught by AI? Navi Rose had a menacing look. Ronan asked back, I learned it from AI. What do you mean? Navi Rose said. Wait, I'll rephrase. Can you see my sword path? He replied blankly, yeah, your sword technique is top-notch. Drawing and striking, that suddenly is hard, and you did it 3 times. Navi Rose said exactly 3 times, just like what you showed us, that arrogant strike of yours. Ronan looked at her in surprise. Navi Rose continued, did you think I wouldn't notice? That crappy technique, so sloppy you intentionally slowed the last strike so we could see it like you're so thoughtful. How rude, have you forgotten where you are? The principal silently looked away. The professors are quite skeptical, huh? What am I watching here? Ronan rolled his eyes and thought, there's a misunderstanding here. I only adjusted my strength because I thought the sword couldn't handle the last strike. Look at that face. Look at that face, she won't believe me. Hey, Navi Rose sheathed her sword and walked away, saying, I'll remember your face, he said in shock. Is that it? She turned back and snapped, I'll personally teach you a lesson for sure. Ronan thought fearfully, oh, it's not over. Navi Rose plopped down in her seat angrily. The principal looked at her and thought, I'll personally teach you a lesson, huh? Sounds like she wants to take him as her disciple. Oh boy, I need to pay more attention. He looked at Ronan and said, well done, Ronan. So we'll end today's exam with one question. It's an open answer, so say whatever you think is reasonable. Ronan, what do you want to learn at Philion Academy? Ronan said seriously, I've been wondering how to answer your question. How to not regret it. That's the first thing I want to learn. The principal widened his eyes at the answer. Yes, he was silent for a moment and said, I see you can go now. Ronan, the gate closed. Grava Kratia repeated the words, how to not regret it. This is tricky. I don't know how to teach that kid. The professor next to him said, what's going on? First Navi rose, now you too. Principal, what did that kid do to make you both like this? Did he use some clever trick? He said, a trick, that's one way to put it. The magic dummy suddenly broke apart. The principal continued, actually, I might have to call him a prodigy. The two professors stared in shock and exclaimed, huh. The magic dummy, its head rolled on the ground. At that moment, Inen thought, that woman's sword from earlier, even I in my past life might not have won. I think I found a worthy opponent. But it seems the road is still long. He smiled to encourage himself. I think this is a good start at Philion. Here I'll definitely learn a lot. Now only the written exam left. I've memorized everything in the last month, so it's a breeze. Later, the guy looked pale and weak as he said, is it really that easy? I'm done for totally done. Life's a real bummer. Maria was shocked. I can't believe he didn't even finish half the test. How did that happen? I remember telling him to check his bag. Ussel said, about that, he took his stuff for school and left his bag somewhere. Then because he was so focused, he forgot the bag. He said with teary eyes, it's my fault. If I had reminded him, this wouldn't have happened. Maria gritted her teeth in anger. Oh my God, how does someone that dumb even survive? Has he been like this since the exam ended? When are the results coming? She lifted Ronan's hands and encouraged, come on, don't frown. The practical part is more important anyway. You'll be fine with your skills, I guarantee it. Suddenly a magic circle appeared. Someone exclaimed, look, the results are out. The three looked at the long list floating in the air. Ussel asked, is that on the pass list? Maria worried, it's faster than I thought. It says Magic Department, Aesel ranked 12th and Practical first in theory. The two looked at each other for a moment. You even got first place in the theory exam. Maria patted her head. Ussel asked, huh, really? She replied, it's right there. Even though there are two with the same rank as you, it's still first place. Great job, sweetie. Maria ruffled her hair. Ussel was excited. It is probably just luck. As if remembering something, Maria turned and asked, hey, Ronan, what rank are you? Ronan stood there motionless, his face looking defeated and weak. I knew it, my name isn't there. So how could someone like me get into the academy? Maria stammered in shock. Really, Ronan? Ronan stood there motionless. His face fell as he said weakly, I knew it, my name isn't there. How could someone like me get into the academy? Maria stuttered in shock. Really, Ronan? Aesel said, no way. She went over, grabbed Ronan's face and yelled, don't joke, have you checked properly? No way. Ronaldo replied, I read every name. I told you I did terribly. Suddenly, something shot past and hit the school gate. Everyone jumped. Ronan looked up and asked, what was that flash? Maria replied, it's the fireworks for the end of the entrance exam for the top scorer. A fire phoenix. A phoenix with blazing feathers appeared. It flapped its wings and shot a fireball which flew straight toward Ronan. He was surprised. Hey, then a big explosion happened. Luckily, Ronan was unharmed. In the air, 5 words appeared. Top scorer in martial arts, Ronan first in practical, 5, 7, or 12th in theory. The three were shocked and said together, cheating. Maria and Axel hugged him and shouted, congratulations. Then a big explosion happened. Maria said, and you're the top scorer in martial arts. You added, great job, Ronan, you're the top scorer. Ronan tensed up and made a groan. She ruffled his head and said, I knew you were a genius. Ronan laughed, I guess I have good judgment. Suddenly he realized, wait, if I'm first, that means he lost to me, right? With his personality, he won't let this slide. This is weird. At that moment, behind Ronan, a black-haired person approached. He said, so it's you, the one who got first in practical. He thought in shock, darn, I knew it, we had to meet like this. Sword Saint Steelfan, the man with sea blue eyes, spoke coldly while staring at Ronan. After the top scorer's results appeared, Steelfan Granshaw walked toward Ronan from afar. The other students saw him and were surprised, murmuring, "That's CF Fan. Fan, I didn't expect to meet the Empire's rising star here." Maria Sen saw Steel Fan approaching them and told Ronan, "Ronan, it looks like he wants to talk to you." Axel next to him was intimidated by his presence and said shakily, "The atmosphere around him is scary. He can't stand anyone better at swordsmanship than him." Having been reborn, he understood his character well. His arrogant attitude and sharp eyes, like they wanted to devour Ronan, confirmed his vicious nature. Ronan didn't want trouble, so he wanted to stay as far from Steel Fan as possible. "I need to avoid conflict." Even though he anticipated his own rank, he pretended not to know and said, "I'm first." "I had no idea about that." He still didn't say anything, just frowned at Ronan. "I need to avoid conflict." At that moment, Steel Fan clenched his fist and asked, "Why are you lying?" Ronan sighed helplessly and replied, "What do you mean?" "I said I don't know. Do you want proof?" "Don't start trouble. Just keep walking." He gripped his holy sword at his side and repeated, "Proof. Fine, I'll show you." With that, Steel Fan drew his sword immediately and swung at Ronan. But he easily blocked the strike with his sword and dodged the blade. Ronan was startled by Steel Fan's action. Maria and Axel, witnessing it from behind, were scared and shouted, "Ronan!" But he easily. After that, Steel Fan did it on purpose to verify his suspicion. Finally, he said, "Is that enough? If you weren't first, you couldn't have blocked that." The students saw this and exclaimed in shock, "A fight! Show me the skill that beat me," he demanded seriously. Ronan was angered by Steel Fan's crazy action and cursed, "You maniac, I can't take this anymore." Ronan went along with his demand, "Come on if you want it." In a flash, he swung his sword towards Steel Fan. Ronan's face became terrifying at that moment. "Let me show you." He leaped toward where he stood. But Steel Fan was stunned, looking at the sword force. Instinctively, he swung his holy sword to block. Of course, as a swordsmanship expert like Steel Fan, he could block Ronan's attack. He seemed forced by Steel Fan to attack, so he struck just to satisfy him and said, "There, you nut job, happy now?" From an outsider's view, he blocked it easily. But only Steel Fan truly understood. His hand holding the sword was shaking nonstop. But really, Steel Fan had to admit Ronan's sword talent. "No wonder you got high scores. Your technique is good, but as I thought." He wouldn't give up and charged again to compete with Ronan. "That's not enough to beat me." He blocked Steel Fan's sword while yelling in fear, "To calm him down. Wait, you're losing it. Calm down." Steel Fan knew Ronan's ability wasn't easy to handle and said, "Don't hide your strength." His face became terrifying as he stared at Ronan. "I can't accept this." With that, Steel Fan swung his sword again. Ronan struggled to block and thought to himself in frustration, faced with his blind obsession with swordsmanship, "That idiot, is he trying to get himself killed? That's why I didn't want to run into him. If this keeps up, he'll start using aura." The situation was getting out of control. As Steel Fan wildly attacked Ronan, it created a storm from just one sword strike, a fierce aura called the Sword Storm. From his past life memories, Ronan knew how dangerous it was. "With my current strength, it's hard to block. I can't fight it." So while fighting Steel Fan in the air, Ronan suddenly turned and ran. It seemed he had some plan to deal with him. Steel Fan's face was full of killing intent, as if he wanted to devour Ronan, not understanding his plan, and shouted, "What are you doing? Turning your back on your opponent in a fight." Ronan suddenly placed his sword on Axel's shoulder. Axel, who was watching intently, didn't understand. His action made Steel Fan chase after him and yell, "Do you think I'll miss?" Axel said fearfully. "Ronan, why me?" Steel Fan saw Ronan's action and was angry and disdainful, cursing, "Coward, using a lady as a shield and calling yourself a knight." Ronan was surprised that he misunderstood his gender and awkwardly explained, "I'm a guy." Ronan smiled slyly as if he had succeeded in his plan against Steel Fan and said, "Just as I thought, you haven't changed that trait. Even facing death, you would protect a knight's honor." With that, Ronan laughed and punched him in the face with full force. Axel next to him, used as a tool against Steel Fan, was also shocked and stared wide-eyed. After that, Steel Fan groaned in pain from the hit. He knelt on one knee in pain, holding his face, even using his holy sword to support himself. Right then, Axel and Maria ran. Ronan seized the opportunity to yell at Axel and Maria, making him tremble in fear. Ronan's yell echoed while Steel Fan held his face in confusion, not understanding. He shouted, "Call the group, wait." Then they had already run far. The security team came from a distance. The bald man rushed over aggressively. "What's going on over there?" "I heard there's a fight." Before he finished, he was startled by the scene. His face changed. "Please describe those people." The Academy security will chase the old bald man. Before he finished, Shilf interrupted him. No need to be polite. Now, I'm not the Duke's son, just a common candidate. He explained to calm the security team. You don't need to worry. This was a fair duel. I'll handle it myself. Shilf P continued regaining his composure and brushing off the dirt from his clothes. Suddenly, something caught his attention. It was the sword saint with a crack. It's cracked. This sword is made of the finest mithril. I thought his sword skills weren't that impressive, but Shilf was wrong about Ronan's real skills. It made him think carefully. Their recent duel shocked Shilf even more, but I didn't expect him to damage the sword like that. He chuckled, lightly. Interesting, Ronan Shilf. It seems he has his own plans. The more he thought, the more curious he became about him. I'll remember that name, Shilf said to himself. The next day, on a clear early morning in the outskirts of the capital in the Seimao forest, Ronan stepped in map in hand and said to Axel, it should be around here. Axel followed exhausted and panting. Axel wiped his sweat and asked hoarsely, Ronan, is this okay? Ronan didn't understand and turned back. What's not okay? Axel brought up the fight with Shilf yesterday. No, I mean the guy you punched yesterday. I heard he's the heir of the Grancia Dukes family, second only to the royal family. You broke his nose. Axel was full of anxiety, his whole body shaking. What if he gets revenge? Ronan calmly looked at the map and reassured, don't worry, he's a good guy, just obsessed with swordsmanship. He always upholds principles and faith, the ideal hero image. Always protects the weak, or you could say the perfect noble image. Ronan, having lived another life, understood Shilf P's true character well. Ronan accurately guessed what he said to the security team yesterday and explained to Axel. He probably said yesterday's incident was a fair duel. If not, we'd be behind bars now. Ronan's explanation made Axel calm down and think it through. Thinking about it, you're right. He brushed it aside and returned to their current main issue. But more importantly, look over there. I think we're here. The spiritual vein that Professor Varon mentioned in front of them was a sparkling green river. Ronan cheered when he found the place the professor mentioned, Fernando Spring. For some reason, mana flows through the world and gathers in one place, creating areas called spiritual veins. With its existence, mana permeates the surrounding area. A normal stone can become high-grade mana stone, and a weed can turn into a miraculous herb. It's famous for its wonders. Ronan looked at the flowing water and marveled nonstop. Its value is inestimable, and most people try to claim it. That professor is generous. Remembering when Professor Varon gave the map to the spiritual vein and the task he let us come here to hatch an egg. What do you think, Axel? Do you feel the difference? Ronan asked him. At that moment, Axel felt the difference in his power, looked at the magic in his hand, and replied, this is the first time I felt such dense mana gathered in one place. If it's here, I can cast stronger spells than usual. Axel was mesmerized, watching the magic swirling in his hand, and noticed the purple light from the egg in Ronan's bag, saying, and the egg in your bag, like before, it's absorbing magical energy at an astonishing rate. The purple egg was strongly absorbing mana. It seems it likes the mana here. Oh, I didn't know that. If she wasn't busy with trading, she could have come with us. What a shame. Axel nodded in agreement with Ronan. Yeah. Suddenly he said his doubt. Ronan, isn't this a bit strange? He was kneeling on one knee on the ground and turned his head. What? Axel continued his thought. Professor Varon said because there's a lot of mana here, many mythical creatures come to nest. Even normal animals do. This place is great. Axel's words awakened Ronan, making him realize something in surprise. But why haven't we heard any animal sounds? We haven't heard any animal sounds. A wind blew, making the leaves flutter, making the atmosphere even more tense. Ronan sighed lightly. He also felt the strangeness here. I was too careless. He slowly stood up. Ronan cursed silently and complained while scratching his ear. Darn, everything's out of control again. Wherever I go, trouble follows. Axel noticed the change in him and realized something was wrong, carefully asking, what's wrong? Ronan looked warily at the lurking, dangerous forest and warned, one thing, get ready, Axel. Far in the forest, there are animal carcasses. Ronan was sure he smelled blood from them, killed by some mysterious group. He reported to Axel, there's a bloody smell. Axel was frightened by Ronan's words and froze, his voice trembling. A bloody smell? What do you mean? His face turned serious and he asked back, what do you think I mean? It means visitors came before us. Ronan smirked, of course, uninvited guests. The forest atmosphere became even stranger. Danger was approaching them. Behind the trees not far away, purple arrows lurked. Uninvited guests. Their group consisted of 5 people. The leader was the purple-haired man in the middle with 2 wolf-masked people on each side. All aimed their bows at Ronan. Whoosh, 5 arrows flew from the forest toward Ronan, but he calmly watched them. For someone like Ronan, the top scorer of Philion Academy, blocking those arrows was easy. His eyes sharpened, and he drew his sword from his side. Ronan swung lightly, slicing them in half. The purple arrow pieces scattered on the ground. His sharp eyes focused on the specially designed purple arrows. This is definitely it. I've seen it before. In Ronan's past life memories, he was familiar with those special arrows. In his past life, in the discipline team camp one evening in the deep forest, the team had a lively chat. Do you know how terrifying this is? A team member held up that special purple arrow to introduce. Banris cleared his throat to get attention and introduced its use for killing orcs. This special arrow can blow up an orc's head. What do you think, team leader? You want one too, right? He asked Ronan. He understood Banrus's nature and smirked. He's at it again. Ronan annoyedly scolded him. You got caught hunting with it, so why boast? Shut up, Banrus was upset and yelled back. Let me tell you, these are good stuff. He frowned and explained the arrow's power. The person who used this arrow hundreds of times and succeeded in poaching is a high-ranking member of our organization, the Hunter of the Caliboro branch. Back to reality, Ronan fully recalled the origin of that special arrow. Based on past information, it's Caliboro again. It's Caliboro again and more. And more, their rank is like the hunter's level. Ronan couldn't help but praise impressive. Before entering the forest where the arrows were shot, Ronan reminded Axel, ISO hide somewhere. Try to make it to the end without turning into a porcupine. Regardless of whether he understood what was happening as everything unfolded quickly. I'll handle some business. As soon as he finished, Axel watched in amazement as Ronan dashed off at incredible speed. The purple-haired leader, hiding behind a tree, secretly marveled at Ronan's strength. What the heck is that guy? He just blocked all the arrows with one swing. All these mana plates. What kind of monster is he? From Ronan's side right now, his eyes were blazing with fury as he charged toward them like a fierce wind. He realized something was off, cursed under his breath, and shouted a warning to his subordinates around him. Damn it, everyone scatter! I'll surround and attack him. Ronan, standing from afar, overheard their conversation and thought, just as I suspected, he's very decisive. Is it because they're different from those punks I blocked in the forest back there? This isn't good at all. After the purple-haired guy's order, they all scattered everywhere. Ronan ran over and urgently shouted for them to stop. Don't you recognize your own teammates? The guy up in the tree was confused by his words. What teammates? What the hell is this guy saying? Ronan chuckled lightly and continued. Well, it seems you haven't heard the news yet. He confidently slung his sword over his shoulder, full of arrogance, and kept bluffing them. I'm the youngest hound from the Damas faction, A or Junior. Hearing that, the group jumped down from the trees and stood in front of Ronan to question him. Are you really a hound? He calmly replied to the guy. Not only that, but it made him flustered too. Is that right? Why don't you believe me? The purple-haired guy, caught off guard by Ronan's retort, angrily shouted, How can I believe a kid like you is a hound? If you said you were from a lower faction, I'd buy it. Ronan, hearing the guys full of doubt, didn't lose his cool and went on, If you don't believe me, why don't you ask the wolf from your faction? I mean it, assuming the worst about people is a bad habit, big bro. Stray dog. Ronan flashed a smug grin that was begging to be smacked, making others feel challenged and looked down on. What a pitiful sight. His sarcastic words successfully pissed off the purple-haired commander. It twisted the guy's face, making him clench his teeth and hold back his rage. He wasn't about to take that provocation lying down. He stepped forward, grabbed Ronan's collar, and yelled, You little brat, how dare you insult me? He threatened, Do you want me to chop off your limbs? Ronan wasn't scared at all. Instead, he got even more amused and kept provoking, Oh man, your habit of cussing people out is just as bad. People like that usually don't end well. A team member walked up and patted his shoulder to calm him down. Hey, chill out. Just because he's a kid, you're doubting him. He went on mentioning the Caliboro ranking system. The ranks go from top to bottom wolf, then hound, and at the very bottom stray dog. Only our people know that. Ronan kept smirking to taunt him, even with a knife pressed against his neck, basically staring death in the face. He went on to reassure, Let's just check with the captain first. If he's not lying, we'll end up on bad terms with the Damas faction. I told you all to stay quiet, keep watch, and stay on alert. The captain, they mentioned, appeared from the bushes in the forest, scolding his subordinates. Seeing his whole team not in formation, and a stranger like Ronan being grabbed by the collar by the purple-haired guy, he asked, What the hell is going on here? They all shouted in unison to greet the captain. The captain they were talking about was a bald, muscular guy covered in scars even on his head. From the demi-wolf faction, the purple-haired guy, like he'd found his savior, let go of Ronan and said, "Just in time, Captain." He recounted to UN what Ronan had said to them. This kid said, the subordinates around didn't stop gossiping. Ronan stood there listening and thought, the wolf showing up here means they're all here now, right? Thinking that, he chuckled. UN, after hearing the whole story, asked Ronan, "Kid, are you A or Junior from the Damas faction?" He calmly kept up the act, showing off his acting skills. "Yes, sir." The guy went on, "Really, why are you here? This mountain range is already under Demia's control." Ronan kept a straight face, still smiling as he replied, "Oh, is that so? I'm not really sure because I'm not A or Junior." His words made UN so angry that veins bulged on his forehead as he exclaimed, "What?" Before he could process it, Ronan had already dashed forward, swinging his sword lightly and easily, slicing the masked guys in half. Blood sprayed everywhere. Even the victims Ronan killed didn't get what was happening. He killed them all, sparing only the Captain, UN, and the purple-haired guy, telling them, "I just threw out a name I knew." The two of them had different reactions once they knew the truth. The purple-haired guy turned pale with fear, while UN was a mix of tense and furious. He gripped his sword tightly at his side. Ronan grinned and charged at UN, swinging his sword. Anyway, that was the best name to pretend to be a damn poacher. The guy didn't even get a chance to fight back before Ronan's sword decapitated him. The purple-haired guy was stunned by the scene, his face blank with shock. Holding a small knife, he stared at UN's head on the ground and called him Captain. After dealing with the captain, Ronan casually said, "Hey, big bro, didn't I tell you your ending would be terrible?" Suddenly, the fingers on the hand holding the small knife were severed. He screamed in pain and fear. The purple-haired guy dropped to his knees, clutching his hand. Hand, my fingers." Ronan was annoyed by his whining, getting a headache, so he ordered, "Shut up. If you don't want to punch, here, calm down, then take this." He dropped a scroll in front of the purple-haired guy, who was fuming and crying in pain, his severed hand shaking uncontrollably. Ronan pointed and commanded, "From now on, you'll write down the locations of all the factions you know." The guy knelt on the ground and stammered, "What do you mean? What's going on? Don't you want to?" He grinned, tapping his sword to threaten, "Then there's no reason to keep you alive." Ronan looked terrifying as he threatened him, making the purple-haired guy sweat bullets in fear. He obediently agreed, trembling, "No, I do. No, I do. I'll do anything, but I don't have anything to draw a map with." Ronan calmly replied, "What are you whining about? I'll make you a pen right there on your right hand." His face was streaming with tears and snot as he looked where Ronan pointed, calling it a pen, but it was his severed hand drenched in blood. After a while, the map was done. Ronan looked at the blood-drawn map in his hand and kept praising, "Great job, you draw really well. Truly talented." The purple-haired guy's face turned pale and gaunt. He didn't dare be rude to him anymore. "Thank you. As promised, you'll let me go, right?" Ronan put the map in his bag and replied, "About that." A sword slashed down from above him, and before the guy could figure out what was happening, the purple-haired guy's body was split in half by Ronan. With a cold, bloodthirsty look, blood splattered on him as he finished, "Of course not." After wiping out the Caliboro group, dusk had fallen. Birds flying in the sky broke the quiet atmosphere in the forest. Axel clung to a tree, panting, his face turning purple. "You've bulked up a lot in just a month." Ronan put his hands on his hips and asked helplessly, "What now?" Ronan stood behind and reminded, "Don't overdo it like that." He complained, annoyed, "I told you to prepare yourself." Axel sadly admitted his fault and apologized. He asked, "But this does seem a bit over the top." In front of them were countless dead animals, hunted by the Caliboro group, lying everywhere. Ronan replied, "I said before letting them live is a crime." And Axel still felt uneasy, stammering, "But..." He reassured and turned to leave. "Don't worry, they're all wanted criminals who needed to be killed." As Ronan walked, he still had a lot on his mind. Hiding it won't work forever. In a flash, he thought of the zoology professor, the lion guy. If Professor Varen saw this, he'd be really sad. Ronan told Axel, "Let's head back now, okay?" Suddenly, there was movement in the bag holding the professor's egg. He was drawn to its shaking and looked down. "What is it?" Ronan didn't get why the egg was acting like that, so he opened the bag and pulled it out. "Why is this suddenly..." Axel was captivated by something and stared intently, then called out, "Ronan, you look like you've seen something terrifying." Your fingers shaking, pointing that way. That's... Axel's face turned purple, his whole body shaking. Ronan, who had been focused on the egg, asked, not understanding, "What is it?" He was shocked too when he saw what Axel was pointing at. The blood from the killed animals was floating up into the air for some reason. Even Ronan, who had been brought back to life, was seeing this for the first time. At first, small drops of blood rose, then gradually formed a larger pool. Finally, a massive sea of blood appeared. Axel was so scared he looked bloodless, screaming in terror. Ronan was surprised too, but he tried to stay calm. His hand was already on his sword, ready for anything that might attack. He couldn't stop cursing, "Damn it, what the hell is this?" In that moment of distraction, he accidentally dropped the egg. Ronan was shocked to see the egg suddenly emit a powerful purple light, and it flew right into the sea of blood. He realized the egg was absorbing the blood. Axel, terrified by this first-time experience, asked Ronan, "What's going on?" He stayed calm and said, "How should I know, idiot?" "No, I do know one thing." He smiled excitedly. "Whatever's inside that egg, it's definitely not ordinary." The purple egg powerfully absorbed the entire sea of blood. The egg didn't hesitate to suck up every last drop. Axel saw it stop and stammered, "Is it over?" Ronan agreed. "Seems like it, but it doesn't look much different. The egg hasn't changed at all from color to appearance." Suddenly it started to crack. The egg cracked open like it was about to hatch. Axel exclaimed in surprise, "The egg's cracking." Ronan predicted, "Looks like it's about to hatch." He cheered excitedly, "Awesome time to see what it is. Let's check if it's worth something." Suddenly, something shot out of the egg straight at Ronan's face, and he couldn't react in time. Axel next to him screamed in shock, "Ronan, you're in pain, gritting your teeth, rubbing your nose. What was that? That's..." Ronan looked at the creature that hatched and blurted out, "A dream bird." It had the same purple color as the egg, with 4 wings on its back, hovering in the air like some kind of mount or dragon. Ronan stared at the dream bird completely dazed, but no matter how he looked, it didn't seem like a bird at all. Axel felt the same way and commented, "It looks more like a dragon, though." He pointed at it and asked Axel, "You think so too?" He had the same thought and confirmed, "Yeah, it matches what I've seen in books." Ronan was still confused and thought, where did it get the mana to hatch into this, a dragon? But he still reached out to pet it. The dream bird was very friendly and obedient, wrapping around Ronan's hand, making him say, "You're pretty cute." It seemed to understand human speech and chirped. But that didn't forgive its over-the-top greeting that hurt Ronan's nose. He angrily scolded, "But your welcome was a bit too rough. You rammed right into my nose." The dream bird understood Ronan and started using its magic. It cast a spell on him, and suddenly the wound on his nose healed completely without a trace. Ronan was amazed and said, "My wound just disappeared." Axel admired it and replied, "Looks like this little one can use healing magic too." He seemed to really like the dream bird, praising it nonstop as super cute. "And it looks like it really likes you." Ronan the dream bird flew over and nuzzled his cheek, making him unable to stay mad. "Oh man, this kid has more abilities than I imagined." Now Axel happily suggested, "Let's name it." "Ronan, we can't just keep calling it Dreambird forever." Ronan thought about it and agreed it made sense. "Yeah, you're right. What name would be good?" Suddenly the Dreambird sensed something off around them. It stared intently and sensed carefully in that direction. The Dreambird shrieked and shot off quickly. Axel was still discussing names, not getting why it took off like that. What happened? Where did it go all of a sudden? Ronan stood with his arms crossed, casually replying, as if he sensed the presence too. "Can't you tell it sensed that guy's presence?" A stranger in a hooded cloak was running away fast. In the distance in the forest, there were hurried footsteps. A stranger in a hooded cloak was running away fast like something was threatening him. He was from the Demia branch, the messenger Banrus. As he ran, he thought to himself, "What the heck is this? What the heck?" Banrus recalled coming back and seeing the bodies of his group lying everywhere. "I was just out delivering a message. How did everyone die?" He followed the traces to where Ronan and Axel were, and happened to see the sea of blood forming, filling him with panic and horror. And what the hell was that sea of blood? Banrus realized he was in danger and turned to flee. "What's going on?" Looking closer, it was the dream bird hatched from the egg charging at him, making Banrus's eyes widen in fear as he ran. As he ran with chaotic thoughts, he lost focus and tripped over a tree. Banrus fell flat on the ground, letting out a painful yell. He turned around and saw the dream bird flying at him using its spell. Banrus was in so much pain, he teared up screaming, my blood, help me!" Footsteps grew clearer. A voice commanded, making the dream bird stop. "Stop." It was Ronan's voice. He and Axel approached and said, "That's enough, Sita. If you keep going, he'll die." He curiously asked, "Sita's its name?" Ronan didn't deny it, calmly playing with Sita, perched on his hand. "Yeah, I had that name in mind already." Ronan ignored Banrus and just focused on playing with it. "How about it? Do you like that name? Banrus sat on the ground staring with his mouth open thinking, this kid is him, not that guy from before. Is he the owner of that monster? Who the hell is he? A call interrupted his thoughts. Hey, Ronan, check on Banrus. Are you okay? Banrus jumped and replied, what? Oh, yeah. Banrus obediently knelt, thinking it was thanks to him he was still alive. Thank you, but how do you know my name? In an instant, Ronan's sword was pressed against his neck as a threat. You don't need to know that. Banrus froze in fear, not daring to move. Yes. Banrus was a member of the security team in Ronan's past life. He still remembered him clearly and continued, didn't expect to run into you here. Anyway, nice to meet you. How's the poaching going? Mr. Bloodhound Caliboro. As soon as Ronan finished, Banrus blurted out, what bloodhound? He stammered nervously, I'm just a messenger. Ronan remembered things were different now and teased, your rank's still as low as ever. Well, that's fine since I have something for you to do. This is about the info you have. This isn't me asking for a favor. Ronan smiled slyly. Chapter 16, when they returned to the capital, it was already dark. The moonlight brightly lit up the land. Ronan juggled the coins in his hand and said, not bad. He gripped the coins tightly and remarked, more than I thought. Axel next to him cheered, I agree, what a surprise. Ronan raised the water bottle high, grinning ear to ear. You said the spring water turned to gold when you took it. We were so confused. Yeah, but Father Maria paid a high price for it. Axel turned happily and said, thanks to him, we don't have to worry about money anymore, right? They both went to the door. Ronan replied, yeah, we owe Professor Varen a lot. They both went to Varen's door and saw a sign hanging on a trip. So they came to thank him and show him Sita, but he's on a trip. What a shame. Ronan recalled threatening Banrus and thought, but with the task I gave Banrus the map I got from that hound, just a simple gesture, remembering that Banrus was so scared he burst into tears and begged, please spare me, I'll do anything. Ronan smirked and thought, I scared him so much he won't plot anything else. Axel turned and asked, what do you want to do with that money, Ronan? Rank 2 gets tuition waived and even support fees, so you don't have much to pay. Yeah, he asked, do you want to do something? Ronan stroked his chin thoughtfully. What do I want to do? After thinking for a while, he realized, oh yeah, the welcome ceremony is coming up. A few days later, at the Valon City carriage station, a man opened the carriage door and respectfully said, we've arrived, miss. The girl inside replied, yes, thank you. It turned out to be Iron stepping out, looking around and exclaiming, whoa, so this is the capital city Valon. She stood on the street, the wind blowing her hair and dress. She couldn't help but say, it's beautiful. And Ronan was already waiting, asking, you must be tired, right? Seeing her brother Iron, happily yelled, Ronan. He quickly asked, nothing happened on your way here, right? Ronan replied, you should be the one asking that. Remembering earlier, a fancy golden carriage suddenly appeared with a servant stepping out respectfully. Your brother sent it, and Ronan was shocked with his mouth wide open. She scolded, Ronan, do you know how shocked I was when this fancy carriage showed up at our house? How could you afford that? Addison stepped forward, pinching Ronan's face with worry. And why are you so skinny? Are you eating properly? He replied, don't worry, I eat a lot. Addison relaxed. Okay, as long as that's good. Then she noticed Sita and exclaimed, huh, who's this? So cute. It raised its wings happily at her compliment. Ronan explained, oh, that's Sita. Due to some stuff, it's living with me now. Finishing, he quickly pulled Addison's hand and urged, but sis, we have to hurry, no time to waste. She was confused. Huh, hurry, where are we going? Before she could finish, Ronan cut in. When I start at the academy, I'll be busy for a while, so I want to get this done first. I have to do this. Then the two of them went to some clothing store in the neighborhood. Inside, Addison shyly stammered, Ronan, I know you've made some money lately. I also know you have a scholarship, so you can be more comfortable. Ronan ignored what she said, just resting his chin as he admired, you look good in anything. But Addison was wearing a lovely long yellow dress, just like a young lady. But she worried, isn't this a bit too expensive, though? Over there, Rachel was busy asking the store clerk, can you ship all these to me? The clerk happily replied, of course. And Addison turned to see the pile of clothing boxes he bought and questioned this many. Ronan lounged back and said casually, it's not that much, you've been through a lot. Then he said seriously, it's my turn to take care of you now. Hearing her little brother say that, Addison instinctively covered her mouth, her eyes welling up as she thought, my little brother, when did you grow up like this? So Addison ran out throwing her arms up and proudly shouting, "Everyone look, my brother's so good." Ronan barely caught her. "Oh my God." The store clerk smiled. "They're so harmonious." The old man next to him agreed, "Yes." Then Ronan yelled, "All right, let's go." Addison happily replied, "Okay." She ran after him excited. "Where to now?" Ronan calmly said, "Let's check the workshop. A few days ago, my sword got damaged by some lunatic." As soon as he opened the door, Chili Fan was waiting outside. Finally done. He glanced and said, "Ronan, where did this name come from?" It made Ronan and Sia jump and yell. He pulled back and demanded, "Hey, why did you pop out like that? Are you stalking me?" Chili Fan calmly replied, "I'm here to get my new sword. You broke the one I was using." He said coldly, "And I happened to see you, so I waited. Don't accuse me like that." Ronan shot back sharply, "That's stalking, you jerk, broken." He pulled out his shiny sword, irritated. "Look at my sword. Do you still dare say that? Who's really at fault here?" Ronan, furious, leaned in close to Chili Fan and threatened, "Do you want me to show you what broken means?" He pulled out his sword in response, not holding back, not bad. Addison jumped in front, blocking the two hotheads. "No, Ronan. I told you not to use bad language." Then Ronan awkwardly explained, "Wait, you misunderstood. It's because of this jerk. All of this." As he spoke, Axel looked toward the pile of animal carcasses all caused by Caliboro. "It's because of this jerk." Addison interrupted sternly, saying, "Are you arguing with me?" Seeing that, Chili Fan thought to herself, "Huh, sister, even though my sister speaks like that, she's really well behaved." Then Shirley Fan, the esteemed heir of the Gracia family and a talent of the empire, viewed the situation like this. Ariel touched her flushed, beautiful face and coyly said, "You must be shocked, right?" Shirley Fan stared at her, blushing in embarrassment. Shirley Fan stared at her, his face turning red with shyness. He saw a goddess. Addison bowed with the hands clasped. "It's because I didn't raise him properly. Please forgive my brother." He awkwardly replied, No. I'm Sherry Fawn, brave on the battlefield as always, but now shy in front of a beautiful lady." He put his hand on her shoulder, showing remorse. "No, it's all my fault for not being careful." "It's not your fault, miss." Here Sherry Fan acted noble, saying it was all on him. "So please relax." Addison clasped her hands, delighted. "Oh my, you're so kind." Then she held his hands gratefully. "Ronan, a friend like you, I'm so happy." Ronan watched from afar as they kept talking. Addison happily asked him to look after Ronan. "Please take care of my brother. Please take care of my brother." Chili Fan shyly replied, "Of course." Ronan was a bit surprised. Chili Fan, flustered, clutched his chest and tried to stay calm as he continued. "Then I'll compensate for your sword. I don't have gold with me right now." Then he pulled out a large gold circle, the size of a hand, and said, "So please take this. It's proof of my family's identity. It's proof of my family's identity." Addison took it, looking very cheerful. Chili Fan continued, "It can be used anywhere in the Empire." Ronan saw it and yelled in shock, "Oh," and he shouted, "Hey, do you know what giving that to her means?" Chili Fan, handsome as ever, said gently, "If you want to buy a sword, go to the forge in the west of the city. It's been around for 500 years. Civilians can't get in easily, but with that you can." He shyly left, not forgetting to add, "So hope you get a good sword." Ronan thought to himself, "Does that crazy guy even know what he's doing?" Seeing his sister admiring that round object, he thought, "With that you could buy a whole village." He looked at Chili Fan's trembling figure hurrying away and pondered, "Is that really the sword Saint Chili Fan I know?" Time flew by, and it was the next day. The sky was incredibly clear. At the front of the school grounds, a ceremony was underway. It was the Philion Academy welcome ceremony. Now Grava was on the podium addressing everyone. "It's a pleasure to meet you, class of 787 students." Then he confidently introduced himself. "I am the principal of Philion Academy Grava, Creatia." Down below were Ronan, Maria, and Axel, all attending. Grava continued, "As you know, all of you passed the entrance exam with outstanding skills and proved your potential. When your unlimited talent combines with Philion's high-level education," he happily added, "I believe you'll be recorded in the Empire's history." And Grava wrapped it up, "Congratulations to all of you in Class 787. Ronan stood below, yawning the whole time. "This is boring and sleepy." Looking at Iron, she was wiping away tears with a handkerchief. He just gave up, not joking around anymore. As long as she's happy. Then Grava spoke again. "Now then," he snapped his fingers. Suddenly a rainbow light appeared around everyone, surprising them all. Axel yelled, "Ronan over there." The others panicked, pointing at the light and saying, "Over there." Looking at the center podium, an invisible glass wall appeared but shattered at one point. Someone shouted, "The sky's breaking!" A strange purple light shone from the crack. Suddenly, from the academy, everyone was teleported to an arena. An excited voice boomed from above. "It's a pleasure to meet you, freshman." Rhonda looked up in admiration. "What is this?" He teleported a whole field with just a snap. Grava now spoke calmly. "All right, now for the highlight of the Philian welcome ceremony. Let's start the interclass meeting." Finally, the day of the senior-junior meeting arrived. This event is a gathering organized between freshmen and second years at their first meeting place. The process is quite tense. It's also a special event at Philian. That battle is described as the top 2 scorers from the entrance exam, representing the freshmen paired with the top 4 from the second years. The second years, who have their own fighting styles, will fight one-on-one. Principal Grava stood on the podium excitedly explaining. The meaning of this event is closely related to the teachers at Philion. In the stands, he continued to present. It strengthens the relationship between upper and lower classes, so they can learn each other's strengths and weaknesses. I believe this will enhance your knowledge. And this battle is like the true start of your learning. These fights are all educational. Through them, each year's representatives will show their first progress in the academy. He added, of course, the freshmen get to choose their opponents, and the second years can't back out once chosen. This is just a learning battle, so don't feel pressured. Freshmen, feel free. Seeing the principal go on like that, Ronan grumbled, he's going in circles again. He said that just confuses the freshmen more. The second-year group included a blonde guy, martial arts major, second-year rank 1 Nasdo. A tan guy with a scar on his face, martial arts major, second-year rank 2 Brahm. He looked at Ronan and Chili Fan and said loudly, "Are those the 2 famous ones this year?" There were 2 more second years. A purple-haired guy, martial arts major, second-year rank 4 Karan. An orange short-haired girl with a tough look, martial arts major, second-year rank 3 Arena. Then came the introduction of the freshman group. The Empire's top talent G-Friend and the shooting star who beat him in the practical exam, Ronan. Karan couldn't hold back an urge. "I can't wait. I want to fight them right now." Hearing that, Ronan leaned back trembling. "Senior, you look tough." Looking at his sister, Addison was praying with clasped hands. Ronan was really determined, feeling uneasy because things weren't going as planned. "So I can show her I won't go down easy." Then he closed his eyes to focus and calculate. "If I can show her my awesome combo with him, that'd be great." A voice cut into Ronan's thoughts. "All right, freshmen can now freely choose their opponents." Then he raised his hand to speak to the principal. "Excuse me, can I make a suggestion?" He asked a suggestion, then he boldly stated his idea. "Since we can freely choose opponents, I want all you respected seniors to teach me." Grava heard and widened his eyes in surprise. Looking at the seniors with their intimidating aura, Ronan casually said, "Of course, all you seniors at once." As soon as he said that, the whole stands went silent. The school board huddled to discuss something. Grava turned to Navarros. "What do you think of his suggestion?" She replied seriously, "Go ahead with what he wants. Isn't Philion's motto that if you have talent, you can do whatever you want? So whoever wins this fight, it'll have great meaning. It'll also teach the other students valuable lessons. If things get out of hand, I'll step in right away." Grava listened and nodded. "All right, I understand, so we'll proceed like that." The second-year group was all fired up. Hearing Ronan's suggestion, Karen gripped his weapon angrily. "What nonsense, that brat's underestimating us big time." Irina added bitterly, "Is he doing whatever he wants just because he topped the entrance exam?" Nasdo was calmer and motivated everyone. "We should use this chance to teach them a lesson. Everyone calm down and get ready to fight." He looked at Steel Fan and instructed, "Everyone, Steel Fan's arrogant but skilled. He's an opponent we can't take lightly." Then Nasdo gripped his sword ready and told everyone, "We'll all charge from the start and go for a full attack. Got it?" The other 3 members got into fighting stances. Iron, sitting below, worried and exclaimed, "Oh no, the atmosphere's chaotic." She sat below and yelled up to Ronan, "Ronan, be careful. If it gets dangerous, pull back right away, okay?" He signaled, "Got it." Iron stopped yelling then. Grava announced, "All right, from now on, the first battle between second years and freshmen officially begins." As soon as he finished, Nasdo charged at Ronan like a beast. He swung his sword straight at him, but Ronan dodged. Seeing Nasdo's skills, he couldn't help but admire. They really are sharp. Remembering his fight with Maria, Ronan thought, they're way above Maria back then, meaning the top 4 second years are on a whole other level. And after Nasdo, Arena charged, swinging her sword at him. Their swords clashed forcefully, sparking brightly. Arena was red-hot with determination. Every strike she made, Ronan easily deflected. Curran charged in and told Arena duck down. He swung his sword straight at Ronan right over Arena's shoulder. Ronan calmly watched the sharp tip coming at him, then used his sword to block Karen's attack and thought, team fighting skills are good too, but this hit's too strong. It made Ronan slide back a good distance. He glanced and noticed something. It was Brahm right behind Ronan, raising a large sword high. Brahm coldly said, Ronan kid, you've underestimated us. He brought the sword down hard on Ronan and shouted, I wanted a fierce battle with you. But Ronan dodged it easily. But he thought a fast and powerful strike, followed by rapid attacks from the others. They're all at a very high level. At that moment, enemies surrounded Ronan from all sides. Suddenly, he vanished in front of everyone. Brahm slammed his sword into the ground in anger, shattering it. The other three quickly chased his fleeting shadow. But Arena couldn't help but say, how is he so fast? As soon as she said that, the three of them were slashed by Ronan in a flash. He thought Philion Academy is top-notch. A sword shattered into pieces behind Ronan. A white light burst up as someone appeared. He glanced back. It was Brahm. His eyes were bright red and scary. Ronan admired, Senior, you're strong. Seeing him about to attack with his sword, Ronan stood calmly and said, your fighting spirit should have been crushed by now. Ronan raised his sword in defense and continued, you've given it your all, so I'll politely fight you till the end. Then the two charged at each other with their swords. Brahm noticed something odd about Ronan. Impossible that stance. Ronan coldly swung his sword once. Seeing his fighting style, it reminded Brahm of someone familiar, Corona. Suddenly, Ronan closed his eyes and in a flash dashed past Brahm and struck. Brahm's sword shattered into pieces. Ronan lowered his sword and humbly said, I learned a lot from this fight. He smiled and said, Senior. A sharp stone shard fell. The entire arena fell silent, as if time had stopped. All the spectators had the same expression on their faces. In a moment of total silence from the shock, everyone immediately started shouting excitedly, who is that new guy? He's amazing. He seemed at a disadvantage at the start of the match, but in just a moment, he took them all down. Looking at Nasdo's group on the fighting floor, totally defeated, everyone couldn't help but marvel at Ronan. Is that guy really a first year? Nasdo looked a bit uncomfortable, forcing a smile as he said, I can't compare to you, so I have no complaints. Gazing at Ronan, he wondered, where did this guy come from? That weird guy. Ronan stood there calmly, his sharp eyes seeming lost in thought. Meanwhile, Arrow was overjoyed, tears streaming down as she grabbed the person next to her and proudly said, did you see that? That's my little brother. Seeing his sister like that, Ronan felt relieved. That way, she wouldn't have to worry about him getting hurt anymore. Now he turned and stared at the second-year group before speaking up. You've all worked hard, seniors. Ronan placed his hand on his chest, bowed his head, and humbly said, I've learned so much today. I'm just excited about joining Philion, so I got a bit bold. The strength of you seniors is truly beyond my imagination. I really appreciate everyone for accepting this challenge from a novice like me. Suddenly seeing Ronan change his attitude so quickly, Maria was surprised. What's with him? Axel just stared with his mouth open, wondering, did he eat something spicy this morning? In front of the second-year's surprised eyes, Ronan bowed deeply and sincerely said, please forgive me. I hope in the future you'll guide me more. They exchanged awkward glances, not knowing what to do. Brahm jumped in, threw his arms around his two friends and cheerfully said, I thought you were some kind of troublemaker. You're not only strong, but also a respectful junior. Then he grabbed Ronan's wrist and said, but don't be so humble. I'm totally impressed. Own this win with confidence. Brahm raised Ronan's arm high like a victory pose and shouted, that's what a Philion student is all about. Then he turned and winked at him playfully, saying, you're the best, Ronan. Ronan smiled back, replying, you fought just as fiercely as your skills suggest. He thought to himself, I've blended in this much, so my sister probably doesn't have anything to worry about anymore. Watching from below, Addison wiped away tears with a handkerchief, moved as she said, Ronan, you've really grown up. A mysterious purple-haired girl had been observing the match and now put her hand to her mouth with a knowing smile. You're quite interesting, Ronan. Time passed quickly. By now it was getting dark and the school was lit up brightly with lights. The dining table was set with delicious food and branches of peach blossoms. The students were eating and chatting lively. Ronan looked around and wondered, it's true what they said about an opening ceremony feast. I was curious what it meant. Seeing the fancy dining hall, he thought to himself, So this is what it's like. Understanding what Ronan meant, Maria picked up a pork leg and smiled, saying, "They say this is the most prestigious academy in the capital, so it has to be at least this nice, right?" Ronan replied, "Yeah, nothing surprising about that."